While drying grain at the farm, my aunt suddenly had a heart attack. I performed emergency rescue and called an ambulance, saving her life, but after she was discharged from the hospital, she brought her whole family to my house late at night, causing a huge scene and crying hysterically, insisting I compensate her. I was just feeling unwell and taking a nap, but you had to call an ambulance and send me to the hospital to burn money. You have to pay for the medical bills and the ambulance fee. The living should not enter government offices, and the dead should not enter hospitals. You're trying to ruin my family's feng shui. If my son fails to get into university, it's all your fault. The grain wasn't collected in time and got soaked by the rain. You have to pay for it. During the argument, my younger sister was kicked flying by my aunt's son. She fell and hit the back of her head on the corner of a table, dying on the spot. Afraid the truth would come out, they took advantage of me being an orphan and used a fertilizer bag filled with grain to crush me to death. Then they set a fire to destroy the evidence of my sister and me. When I opened my eyes again, I was back at the threshing ground. My aunt was swaying unsteadily, having just collapsed onto the grain. I picked up my little sister and immediately ran home. Auntie has fallen asleep. Let's not disturb her. This time, I respect everything. Some people just deserve to die. My aunt clutched her chest in agony, her body swaying before she collapsed to the ground. The heavy thud of a shovel hitting the ground snapped me out of my thoughts. It was only when I saw the golden rice, corn, and beans spread across the farm that I realized I had been reborn to the time right before my aunt suffered a sudden heart attack. In my previous life, just before National Day, after much nagging and urging from my grandmother, I had no choice but to take time off school early and rush home to help with the autumn harvest. While helping out on the farm, it happened that my aunt had a sudden heart attack while drying rice in the sun, hanging by a thread. I stayed calm, using the first aid knowledge I had learned earlier to keep my aunt lying quietly, clear her airway, and had my younger sister call 120. The ambulance arrived in time and saved my aunt's life. But the first thing my aunt did after recovering and leaving the hospital was to come and make a scene at my house. She took advantage of the fact that my parents had passed away, threw herself on the ground, and wailed pitifully. I was just uncomfortable and taking a nap, but you had to call an ambulance and waste money sending me to the hospital. You have to reimburse me for the medical bills and the ambulance fee. In my life, I vowed never to set foot in government offices while alive, nor enter a hospital when dead. You're ruining my family's feng shui. If my son fails to get into university, it'll all be your fault. In the rush to save my aunt, the millet wasn't harvested in time and got soaked by the rain. My aunt blamed me too, slapping her thigh and shouting, the millet wasn't harvested in time either, it got drenched by the rain, and you have to pay for that too. My aunt's son, that cousin who's clearly an adult but still acts like a spoiled brat, chimed in with a fierce look, you've ruined our family's feng shui. If I don't get into Tsinghua or Peking University, can you afford to compensate for that? My heart turned cold, but I still patiently explained to my aunt that if her illness hadn't been treated at the hospital promptly, it could have been fatal. Unexpectedly, upon hearing this, my aunt suddenly flew into a rage, slapped me hard across the face, and cursed, you bastard, how dare you curse me? You two siblings were born without a mother to raise you. All these years, I've been the one helping you out, and now you dare to curse me. I covered my face, clenched my fists tightly, feeling a sharp pang of pain in my heart. My mother passed away early. With my father's hard work and capability, he could have easily supported us siblings, but 5 years ago, while my aunt was catching fish by the river, she fell into the water. My father rushed to save her, pushing her ashore, but he exhausted himself and was swept away by the swift current, leaving no trace of his body. From then on, my sister and I became orphans. We had no choice but to seek a living at our grandmother's house. All the dirty and heavy work fell on us siblings. Being older, I could handle it better. My poor sister is only 7 years old, but she has already been forced to learn how to wash clothes and cook. No matter how hard things were before, my father always doted on her. If our parents were still alive, we wouldn't have suffered all these years. Now I kindly saved my aunt, and instead she falsely accuses me. My aunt and cousin rummaged through the whole house, cursing and shouting, but still couldn't find where the savings were. In desperation, she lunged at me, trying to force me to tell her where the money was hidden. My little sister was so scared she cried loudly, but she still ran over to protect me. Then my violent cousin kicked her away, and she hit the back of her head on the corner of the table, dying instantly. My eyes burning with rage, I rushed to the kitchen to grab a knife and fight them to the death, but just as I was about to reach for the knife, my aunt knocked me out with a brick. Fearing that her son might face legal trouble, she piled over a dozen fertilizer bags filled with grain on top of me, crushing me to death without leaving a single visible mark on my body. Yet, even after that, this heartless mother and son still felt it wasn't enough. Not long after, they returned to set the place on fire, destroying the evidence and my remains. Afterward, they told everyone that I had burned down the house, taken the family's money, and run away with my sister because I refused to support our grandmother. Upon hearing this story, my grandmother was first shocked, then relieved. It's for the best that those two ill-fated stars, who brought misfortune to their parents, are gone. For a minor injury, you insisted on calling an ambulance and staying in the hospital. If that had ruined the feng shui and kept my precious grandson from getting into college, I would have wanted to beat you to death. They hypocritically claimed they didn't blame me, while at the same time spreading rumors that I was disrespectful to my elders, that I stole their money, and that I was an ungrateful wretch who disregarded all their years of raising me. In rural areas, it is not uncommon for women and children to run away from home. Therefore, no one doubted this statement. However, the deaths of my sister and I were buried in darkness, with no one to seek justice for us. Fortunately, heaven has eyes, giving me a chance to be reborn. The sound of my aunt falling to the ground also startled my sister. She was peeling corn husks and hurried over upon hearing the noise, looking at me curiously with her eyes, asking what had happened to our aunt. I quickly picked up my sister and left the farm. The voice was calm yet carried a deep chill. Auntie is asleep. Let's not disturb her. The lessons of my past life have taught me some people simply deserve to die too. I ran home with my little sister, hoping to stall Grandma. We had to keep her from finding out about Auntie too soon. What if she discovered her in time and managed to save her? The sky darkened from the east. Dragonflies flew low, a sign that rain was coming. More and more villagers were out on the road, all hurrying to bring in their grain. I was walking on the bumpy, muddy path when I happened to run into kind-hearted Aunt Wang. Aunt Wang called out to me, "Young man from the Zhou family, hurry back and tell your grandmother to collect the grain. Rain is coming." I squeezed my sister Joy's hand, signaling her to stay quiet, and smiled back at Aunt Wang. "Thanks for the reminder, Aunt Wang. My aunt is already bringing it in." Aunt Wang was in a rush to harvest her grain and didn't notice anything unusual about us. By the time we got home, Grandma was already shelling peanuts and chatting with her old friends. I wonder where that damn kid Ian has gone off to. It's so late and he still hasn't come back to cook. That little brat Joy only knows how to run around with her brother. Just wait until they get back. I'll break their legs. As soon as the words were spoken, I rushed into the house with my sister. Seeing it was us, Grandma's face fell, her tone turning sharp and sarcastic. "Where the hell have you been? Not coming back to cook? Your aunt will be back for dinner soon." Grandma's son, who was nearby, stepped in to smooth things over. Ian has grown so tall, his eyes and brows look more and more like Arthur's. Arthur was my deceased father, Grandma's own son. I never expected Grandma to snort coldly. Poor, unfortunate son of mine, taken so young by this family of jinxes, a great calamity star who gave birth to two little calamity stars. Grandma's shamelessness once again shattered my worldview. Dad died saving Auntie. How could it be that we were the ones who brought him misfortune? I shot back. Dad clearly died in Auntie's place. Before I could finish, Grandma swung a wooden club at me. "Shut up, Pa. Don't bring such bad luck. Your aunt is perfectly healthy. She'll live a long life. Don't talk about death." She shot me another fierce glare and said, "Go cook quickly, your aunt will be back for dinner soon." I sneered inwardly, thinking that probably won't be necessary. There's no need to prepare 3 meals a day for her anymore. But before I could finish gloating to myself, Aunt Wang's booming voice suddenly came from the doorway. "Old lady Hecate, why haven't you harvested your grain yet?" Grandma threw down the peanuts in her hand and hurried out. "That can't be. Dolores has been at the farm all day, and it's about to rain. How could she not have gathered the grain yet?" Dolores is my aunt's name. Aunt Wang was in a hurry to get home. "It really hasn't been gathered. I saw it all spread out on the ground from a distance. You'd better go check quickly, or it'll all get soaked soon." Grandma changed her clothes, grumbling, "It must be that wretched Joy who brought Dolores too little food at noon, leaving her too hungry to finish gathering the grain by now." As she spoke, she looked at my sister and me standing in the kitchen and couldn't hold back her anger. "What are you standing there for? Come with me to gather the grain, worthless thing. Why don't you hurry up and die from illness like your dead mother?" It's hard to imagine these are words a biological grandmother would say to her grandchildren, yet nowadays, such scenes are just ordinary. Having lived a second life, I can now digest my grandmother's malice without being so heartbroken anymore. I responded, "I'll change clothes and then go. For farm work, you can't wear clean clothes. The dirtier and more ragged, the better." While changing, I tried to stall for time, the consequence being my grandmother pounding on the door outside, cursing that she'd beat me to death if I was any slower. On the way to the farm, with Grandma driving us on her electric tricycle, we met Old Man's son coming from the opposite direction. Seeing us, the old man stopped his cart and shouted, "Mother Dolores, come quickly and see, Dolores has fainted." Grandma was greatly alarmed. "How Could she faint? Old man's son shook his head. How would I know? You should go and check on her quickly. Don't let anything else happen. By the time Grandma hurried anxiously to the farm, a crowd had already gathered around Auntie. Auntie had a heart attack. After the onset, she needed to be kept in a well-ventilated area, but she was surrounded by a dense crowd. No one, like my past self, adjusted Auntie's posture to ensure her breathing was unobstructed and maintained her vital signs. There were even curious children who deliberately threw stones at Auntie. Grandma rushed in anxiously. Oh my, what's wrong with Dolores, my child? Wake up quickly. Grandma went straight over, forcibly propping Auntie up into a sitting position and slapping her face, completely unaware of Auntie's momentarily more agonized and pallid expression. Someone in the crowd voiced concern. Miss Dolores, maybe we should take Dolores to the clinic in town for a checkup. Yes, Dolores doesn't look too good. Grandma's eyebrows shot up. What clinic? That'll cost money again. As if it's not your family's money being spent. Dolores is just too tired. She'll be fine after some rest. My daughter is perfectly healthy. Standing behind the crowd, I curled my lips in a sarcastic smile. Auntie had already shown signs of a heart condition a couple of years ago. Sometimes she felt so unwell at night that she couldn't sleep. Grandma always said she was just too tired and there was no need to waste money going to the hospital. The two of them even listened to some fortune teller who said going to the hospital was unlucky and would ruin the family's feng shui. It might even clash with the star of literature, causing my cousin to fail his college entrance exams. As soon as she heard it could harm my cousin, my aunt wouldn't stand for it. Anyone who dared suggest going to the hospital would get an earful from her. Once, when I kindly reminded her to get a checkup at the hospital, the two of them immediately started yelling at me, pointing at my nose. They accused me of having ill intentions and trying to ruin their family's feng shui. This time, faced with all the well-meaning but chaotic suggestions from those around us to send my aunt to the hospital, I stepped forward, blocking my aunt and grandma, and declared with righteous indignation, going to the hospital will ruin our family's feng shui and cause my cousin to fail his college entrance exam. You're deliberately harming my aunt by making her go to the hospital. For seeing me step forward voluntarily, Grandma finally looked at me a bit more favorably and snorted coldly. Exactly, your cousin is taking the college entrance exam next year. They clearly have ill intentions. The neighbors were somewhat angry. What kind of talk is this from Dolores' mother? Truly taking kindness for ill will, I continued. Aunt has always been in good health. She's probably just too tired. Let's carry her home to rest for a while. The people around wanted to persuade further, but seeing this, they all fell silent. In my previous life, the neighbors helped me save my aunt together, but in the end, not a single one was spared. They were all blamed by my aunt and grandmother. They said that just like me, everyone had to compensate for my aunt's losses, or else they would be blamed if my cousin couldn't get into university. In this life, let those who deserve to die go ahead and die, and don't drag innocent people into it. My aunt's son, my cousin, also rushed over, his brows furrowed. There was no sign of worry, but rather an overwhelming impatience that he couldn't hide. My mom has never been like this before. Could something go wrong? Before my grandmother could speak, I spoke first. What are you saying, cousin? Don't jinx Auntie, she's just too tired. Seeing that grandma was also hesitating, the neighbors and relatives still wanted to continue urging them to send Aunt to the hospital. I absolutely refused. What if she was saved? I seized the opportunity. Why not help Aunt sit up and give her some water? Giving Aunt water at this critical moment, I was determined to put her to death, but Grandma followed my suggestion. She had my cousin support Aunt while she fetched a ladle of water and tried to feed it into Aunt's mouth. The first half ladful went fine, but almost all of the second half spilled out. It simply couldn't be fed, and I watched my aunt's face turn pale bit by bit, her lips losing more and more color. Even after feeding her half a ladle of water, there was no improvement. And Grandma finally showed a worried look. Old Mrs. Son, who was standing by, suddenly clapped her hands and exclaimed, "Oh my, Dolores's symptoms look exactly like Leon's before he died of a heart attack a few years ago." As soon as she said this, everyone's expression changed. Grandma and my cousin looked especially grim. Leon's heart attack had cost his son a lot of money, and in the end, he still didn't make it. This is bad. We need to get her to the hospital right away. A heart attack is no joke. Grandmother had always thought Aunt's condition was just a minor issue. Hearing everyone say that, she suddenly lost her sense of direction and panicked. Then shouldn't we send our Dolores to the hospital right away? Old son's wife, please lend me your son's car. A chill went through my heart. We couldn't just send Aunt to the hospital like that. I was just about to stir up trouble when a male voice cut in first. No, Mom can't be hospitalized. The feng shui master said that if Mom is Hospitalized, it would conflict with the god of literature. What if it affects my chances of getting into college? 5. Watching my cousin jump out and try to pull away the neighbors who were coming to lift Aunt. I almost burst out laughing. I almost forgot about my cousin, that ungrateful wretch. My cousin never did well in school. I tutored him day and night for the high school entrance exam, which barely got him into high school. He doesn't study hard and doesn't take learning seriously. Instead, he listens to a feng shui master and believes he's the literary star. He actually thinks that his mother being in the hospital clashes with the literary star, and that's why he won't get into college. He values unknown gains more than his own mother's life. What kind of talk is that? Your mother is on the verge of death. Oh, my dear sister, look at your grandson. How can you be so thoughtless? The villagers all began to speak out in criticism, but my cousin had already been spoiled by my aunt and grandmother, so why would he care about what others said? He directly threw himself beside my aunt, preventing others from carrying her away. Grandmother could only try her best to coax my cousin softly. Good grandson, look at your mother in this state. We can't afford to delay. Be good. Let's get your mother to the hospital first. My aunt suddenly twitched in pain, which terrified grandmother, who cried out in distress. Oh dear Dolores, wake up. We're going to the hospital right away. Seeing my aunt in such agony, some kind-hearted elders nearby scolded that if he didn't step aside, they'd slap him. Only then did my cousin dare not block the way any longer. Grandma's son directed her son to quickly bring the car over to take my aunt to the hospital. Thinking back to my past life, those who kindly helped my aunt ended up being taken advantage of. Grandma's son's family has been good to me. They often gave my sister and me food when we were hungry. I can't let them get entangled with my aunt and grandma. I slapped my cousin on the back. Driving there won't make it in time. Cousin, hurry and bring the family's three-wheeler to take Aunt to the hospital. My cousin was somewhat reluctant, still unwilling to risk his future for my aunt. Grandma got anxious and pointed at me, scolding, "Why are you hitting my grandson? Ian, you useless thing. You go and bring the car over. If anything happens to your aunt, I'll skin you alive. I'm just waiting for you to tear me apart," I sneered and spread my hands. "Grandma, you never let me touch that three-wheeled scooter. I don't know how to drive it." In her eyes, that three-wheeled scooter was something precious, so how could she let me, a jinx, touch it? Grandma instantly went silent, like a duck whose neck had been squeezed. In the end, it was my cousin, who usually treated the three-wheeled scooter like a toy, who nervously drove it. In the previous life, the ambulance couldn't easily get into the village, so Grandma's son drove my aunt to the village entrance unexpectedly. After my aunt was discharged from the hospital, she blamed Grandma's son's family for it as well. I was perfectly fine before. It's the bumpy ride in your car that made me sick. You have to pay me compensation. From now on, if anything happens to me, I'll blame you all, and you'll be responsible for my medical treatment. Aunt immediately demanded that Grandma's son's family compensate her and cover all her future medical expenses. This directly caused Grandma's son's blood pressure to spike, and she passed away on the spot. Only when Grandma's son's son rushed out with a kitchen knife, ready to kill Aunt and her family, did Aunt finally back down and slink away with her people. After failing to extort several families, Aunt eventually took out her anger on us, the helpless siblings. Soon after, my cousin rode over on the family's three-wheeled motorcycle, and everyone scrambled to lift Aunt onto the vehicle. Grandma's legs weren't in good shape, so getting onto the three-wheeler was a bit of a struggle. I wanted to go over and help her up, but she grabbed the soft flesh of my arm and pinched it hard. It hurt so much my tears nearly flew out. Grandma cursed and grumbled, "If it weren't for raising you two siblings, our family would have bought a car long ago. You jinx, hurry up and get in the cart to go take care of your aunt." My cousin drove my aunt, Grandma, and me, swaying and wobbling out of the village, sitting in the cart bed. I couldn't hide the nervousness in my eyes. It's been dragged up for so long already, they probably can't be saved, right? If they aren't completely dead, how awful I'd feel inside. 6. We went to the hospital, and my aunt was admitted to the ICU. My cousin ran around registering and paying fees. As he looked at each payment slip, his face grew increasingly grim. Finally, my cousin ran out of money and went to the operating room door to ask Grandma for cash. Grandma took one look at the bills and her expression changed drastically. "What kind of surgery costs this much? In our village clinic, it could be cured for just over 10 yuan. Grandma stormed over and started banging on the operating room door. "Open up, we're not treating it anymore." Not treating it. A bunch of quack doctors who only know how to swindle money. In the end, it was the doctor who came out in time to stop Grandma from continuing her tantrum, patiently explaining the situation to her. Grandma wouldn't listen at all. She even spat fiercely at the doctors several times, cursing them As a profiteer, my cousin chimed in from the side. My mom is usually in good health. I think this is just a scam to get money. He crumpled the payment slip in his hand, his face full of hostility. With this much money, I could buy several high-end computers and graphics cards. When my aunt was wheeled out of the operating room, the result left me very disappointed. She had actually managed to survive, but because it had been delayed for so long, the risk of after effects remained relatively high. She would still need to be hospitalized and undergo 2 more reconstructive surgeries. When she heard the doctor say that her aunt had been saved, Grandma first breathed a sigh of relief, then rolled her eyes at the surgeon and said, "My daughter is blessed with great fortune. You quacks nearly ruined her. I told you it was nothing serious, but those people insisted on bringing her to the hospital, wasting all that money for nothing." The doctor turned red with anger, his fists clenched as he barely held back, finally storming off in a huff. When the aunt woke up, the first thing she did was slur out a barrage of curses at the doctor making rounds. "You bunch of damned swindlers, you tricked me into staying in the hospital, then gave me surgery and ruined our family's feng shui." She pulled out the 4-needle herself, smashed the drip bottle on the floor, and went wild in the hospital room, scared the aunt in the next bed. "I just took a nap, and you all sent me to the hospital." My aunt pointed at me, who was assigned to accompany her, and started yelling, "You little beast didn't even try to stop them. Are you dead? You're going to pay for all that money." It was someone else who suggested sending her to the hospital, and it was her son who brought her here, yet she still only yelled at me. I smiled, didn't argue, and didn't respond. I let her vent her emotions like that. Sure enough, after just a few curses, her eyes rolled back, and she collapsed again. 7. Grandma was so frightened that she completely panicked. When Aunt woke up for the second time, everyone had settled down. The doctor, with a stern face, warned her about the precautions. The patient must absolutely not be allowed to get emotionally agitated. On Aunt's medical report, there were densely packed professional terms that even Grandma couldn't understand. It stated that she not only had a heart attack, but also had high blood pressure, blood sugar, and blood lipids, due to long-term consumption of leftovers and pickled vegetables. Her kidneys had also developed problems. Grandma's hands trembled as she held the medical records. She grasped Aunt's hand, and the mother and daughter hugged each other, crying bitterly. "Impossible. Dolores is usually in good health," my cousin said with a gloomy expression. "My mom has always been healthy. I think someone in this family is jinxing her. Someone is jinxing our whole family." With my cousin's hint, my grandmother and aunt suddenly looked at me. "That's right, someone is jinxing our family. It's all because of you, you little beast. Your aunt is exhausted from taking care of you." My aunt also cried, "For these 2 parentless, unlucky stars, I've really exhausted all my efforts." Whoa, sure enough, as long as she's alive, she'll stir up trouble. I think she's been scheming against us with all her might. At home, all the dirty and tiring work is done by us siblings. On the contrary, Grandma and Aunt have it much easier, finding time to play mahjong whenever they can. Now that health issues have arisen, they still manage to blame us siblings for it. The ward was in chaos, and I watched their accusations against me coldly, waiting for her next move. Finally, after enough crying and wailing, Aunt's eyes flickered as she said, "Ian must take out the savings his parents left for them and compensate me, part of it for my medical treatment, and part for my son's education." I sneered. The truth was finally revealed. "You've had your eyes on the property my parents left for my sister and me all along, haven't you?" In my past life, I stubbornly refused to give it up, which ultimately led to both my sister and me meeting our deaths. This time, I learned my lesson and immediately teared up, pretending to be pitiful. "But I've already given all the money my parents left to Grandma. I really have nothing left. Otherwise, would my sister and I be wearing old clothes that others didn't want?" Even my university tuition was paid with a loan. Back when I got into university, Grandma absolutely refused to let me go. She even threatened me using my sister. I knelt on the ground and begged for a long time, promising to send money to Grandma regularly after graduation. Only then did she reluctantly agree. But every winter and summer vacation as well as National Day holiday, she always calls me back home to work like a beast of burden. The slightest hesitation on my part, and she would hit my little sister until she cried, just to make me hear it. Now hearing me say this, Grandma flew into a rage. "Nonsense, you only gave me that little bit of money. How much could that have been?" My aunt's eyes flickered. "I did indeed give Grandma a small portion of the money my parents left behind, right in front of my aunt, but today I deliberately phrased it ambiguously, to make my aunt think I had given Grandma the inheritance behind her back. People are selfish, especially those like my aunt and grandmother. As long as I can sow discord between them, my goal is achieved." Both of them had guilty consciences. So they stopped pressing me to hand over the inheritance. They then turned their attention to making trouble with the hospital. They wanted to refuse to pay the medical bills, and even sought compensation from the hospital. But the endless stream of medical disputes had long since trained the hospital to handle such situations. The chain of evidence for medical procedures was complete. Everything the hospital did complied with regulations, and it indeed saved my aunt's life, if they tried to default. On the medical bills, they can expect to meet in court, dare to cause a scene, then they can meet at the police station, want to procrastinate, then what about those 2 life-saving corrective surgeries you still need to do? My aunt and grandmother have always been bullies who pick on the weak. In the end, they paid up, grumbling and cursing all the while. The hospital didn't give them a hard time either. Doctors have compassion. No matter how angry or disdainful they felt, they still treated the illness as they should. As the National Day holiday officially began, my cousin's mock exam results came out. No surprise, he ranked last in his class. Ever since I got into university, my cousin grew jealous and vowed to score higher and do better than me. Unfortunately, talking and doing are 2 different things. He's lazy and lacks drive, relying only on the nonsense spouted by that unreliable fortune teller. How could he possibly succeed? Good grades don't just fall from the sky. In the hospital, seeing that her son had no hope of getting into college, my aunt wailed, "Son, it's all those people who ruined you." They insisted on sending me to the hospital, offending the god of literature in our family. My cousin's face turned ugly, staring blankly at the report card. He didn't think there was anything wrong with himself. The fortune teller had said he was the god of literature and could get into college without studying, so his poor performance was entirely because others made his mother go to the hospital, offending him. The more he thought about it, the angrier he became. My cousin immediately threw down the report card and stormed back to the village with his grandmother. A village meeting was happening just then, with a crowd gathered at the village entrance, even larger than the group present when my aunt had fainted. An auntie stepped forward to greet her. "Dolores's mother is back. How is your Dolores doing? I told you she should have been sent to the hospital that day. Otherwise something terrible might have happened." Unexpectedly, Grandma went up, grabbed the auntie's clothes, and slapped her twice across the face. "It was you, you old harlot, who insisted on sending Dolores to the hospital that day, ruining our family's feng shui and costing so much money." The auntie immediately began wailing, "Murder, there's no justice." The people around quickly pulled Grandma and the auntie apart. Grandma scanned each of them one by one, a fierce resolve hardening her cloudy eyes. "You all are going to pay for our Dolores's follow-up medical treatment, and my grandson, you ruined his chances of getting into college. You'll have to find him a wife and a job later." Grandma raised her hand and pointed at Uncle Chin, speaking with utter confidence. "Old Chin, your son works as a civil servant in the city, right? You'll get my grandson in there too, with full benefits. All 5 insurances and 1 housing fund, not a single one missing." The villagers were terrified by the sight of Grandma's outrageous behavior. "Why are you pinning this on us? We were just trying to be kind and remind you to go to the hospital." Grandma clung to her demand, refusing to let go, insisting that every villager present pay for the medical expenses. I quietly followed them back, watched this farce unfold, and called Grandma's son. Seeing how shamelessly Grandma was acting, the villagers also got angry. With Grandma's son adding fuel to the fire, they all stormed straight to my aunt's hospital. They wanted to settle accounts with the one who started it all. My aunt was lying on her hospital bed, making a list, figuring out how much money each villager should give her every month. She was so thrilled she was about to laugh out loud. Little did she know that the next second, the door would be kicked open. The villagers filed in one by one, demanding that my aunt give them an explanation. "Dolores, why has your mother decided to falsely accuse us? You ruined your own health by staying up late, so why are you blaming us?" My aunt was no pushover either. Despite being ill, she stood up and argued with them, holding her own against a crowd of detractors. The argument was so loud that it disturbed the entire building. In the end, the hospital called security to escort the villagers out, and the lead doctor came to explain my aunt's condition. Her heart had already been weak for 2 years. If she had received timely treatment back then, it wouldn't have gotten so serious, but unfortunately, she kept delaying, which ruined her health. My grandmother, who had just arrived, was stunned after hearing what the doctor said. Watching from the side, I could see her lips had turned completely pale. Indeed, 2 years ago my aunt was already unwell, often complaining of chest pain while working. Grandma didn't take it seriously, just said it was a minor issue and casually gave her some painkillers to take. I kindly reminded my aunt to see a doctor to prevent the condition from getting worse. In return, she slapped me across the face. "How dare you curse me, trying to teach me? 2 years of college really went to your head." I never brought it up again. Whenever my aunt felt unwell, Grandma just had her take painkillers, and so it was delayed again and again, dragging on to this point. Grandma rushed in, hugging Auntie and crying, "It's all my fault," as she cried. She suddenly picked up the teacup by the bedside and threw it at me. I don't understand, but Ian, you're a college student, how could you not know? You didn't even remind us. It's all because of you, you jinx, you've ruined my daughter. Auntie also cried with genuine sincerity. I think you, this ungrateful wretch, just can't stand to see us doing well. We raised you for nothing. I dodged the teacup, just pursing my lips and saying nothing. There are other people around. So playing the pity card is the best move right now. Granny's son was still in the hospital room. Hearing this, she said a fair word for me. I was right there when Ian warned Dolores. Dolores, didn't you hit him and accuse him of cursing you, even though he has no parents? You can't be so unreasonable and deliberately argumentative, acting like this. Aren't you afraid his parents will rise from the grave to confront you? Pa, have you no conscience? After saying this, Granny's son gave a cold snort and left. The doctor also gave the aunt and grandmother a scornful look before turning to leave. The aunt was hospitalized, and the fees had to come out of her family's savings. Earlier, when the village encouraged everyone to enroll in the new rural cooperative medical scheme, they refused to spend the 300+ yuan a year, loudly cursing the village branch secretary for trying to swindle them. But now that she's sick, she has to pay the full costs. The money saved up through a lifetime of hard work was spent in the blink of an eye, nearly all gone, with no hope of getting into college. The spiritual support from the Wenchang star's prophecy also shattered, so my cousin simply stopped going to school altogether. He spent all day hanging out with a bunch of troublemakers, getting into mischief outside. Before the National Day holiday was even over, he had already dyed his hair green, looking like a little delinquent from the streets, watching the money flow out like water. Grandma's mood grew increasingly unstable, often taking her anger out on me and my sister. She even wanted me and my sister to drop out of school entirely and stay home to farm and harvest grain. But my little sister is only in first grade. Ian, as a young man, can go out and do manual labor to support the family, and Joy can stay home to cook, do laundry, and take care of me and your aunt. Let my sister and I work to support the family, with one of us taking care of her and our aunt. This is simply wishful thinking. Back then, my father had a habit of saving money and actually left a sum for my sister and me. It wasn't much, but it was enough to support me until I graduated from university. When I was younger, I didn't dare spend it, fearing my grandmother would find out and take it away, so I never touched it. All these years later, because my sister was too young, she had to stay in the village to live. I was even more afraid to let them know casually, to avoid being threatened, but, living life over again, I've seen right through them. So what if we have a falling out? I've grown up now. At worst, I'll just take my sister and leave. I am absolutely determined to attend this university. I flat out refused Grandma. Naturally, the result was getting scolded by her again. The rural night was quiet, with only the sounds of frogs and cicadas, and the occasional unpleasant curses from Grandma next door, but I just pretended not to hear. I even had the spare mind to parrot those words, amusing my sister. Originally, my sister was quite upset from being scolded, with my antics. She giggled with delight. Our cheerful laughter echoed in the courtyard. The neighbor immediately fell silent. I sneered. Get angry, go ahead and be angry. You drop dead from anger. Then 9, even in the hospital, my aunt couldn't keep quiet, picking fights with people in the ward, small arguments every 3 days, big blowouts every 5. In the end, they couldn't take it anymore and transferred to another ward. I couldn't return to school. I didn't dare leave either, afraid something might happen to my sister. So I explained the family situation to the school and temporarily took a leave of absence. I can go back to school late. I have to see how they die first. That day, when Grandma asked me to take food to Aunt, I just happened to run into Aunt's sister-in-law coming to visit her. Aunt's husband died young, and she has a sister who has cut off contact with her for many years. Now that Aunt is in the hospital, the sister-in-law came as soon as she heard the news. I stood at the hospital room door, listening to their conversation. Aunt exaggerated how those villagers and I had ruined her family and destroyed their feng shui. Her sister-in-law finally ran out of patience, brushed her hair back, said a word of warning, and left. If you keep listening to that unreliable mother of yours, sooner or later you'll ruin both yourself and your son. After her sister-in-law left, my aunt was still cursing, Pa, acting all high and mighty. How could my own mother possibly harm me? It's all you people who deserve to die. Seeing me come in, my aunt's face fell, ignoring the disgust and resentment in her eyes. I served her some rice. My aunt had just undergone surgery and also had high blood sugar and high cholesterol, so she could only eat bland food, but my grandmother paid no heed, loudly denouncing the doctors as quacks. How can you recover quickly without eating something with a bit of substance? These doctors are just tricking us into staying in the hospital to spend money. So she made some greasy, heavy dishes for her aunt, which made her feel so sick she nearly vomited. What are you Standing around for, get me some water, move it, you useless lump. As her aunt was eating, she suddenly spoke up, you're not getting any younger, your grandmother and I have arranged a match for you, go get married in a few days. I raised an eyebrow, wondering what new scheme they had cooked up to hurt me. I'm still in school, let's talk about this later. Her aunt slammed her chopsticks down on the table and snarled, you're old enough. This family can't afford to feed a freeloader anymore. And don't expect a dowry from us, your cousin needs to get married too. The eldest daughter of the Solomon family in our village is both beautiful and well educated. Although she was a bit wild in the past few years, she's changed now. She's a good person at heart. She doesn't even want a bride price from our family and is bringing a generous dowry. I think you two are a perfect match, a good person, I sneered. But this eldest daughter of the Song family, Scarlett, changes men faster than she changes clothes. A few years ago, she ran off with a man and became the laughingstock of the whole village. Now that she's been dumped and has come back in disgrace, she's looking for someone to take her in. If I marry her, I'll become the laughingstock of the whole village, and who knows how many green hats I'll end up wearing, just to covet her family's wealth. She's trying to push me into a pit of fire, I said in a flat tone. If Aunt thinks she's so good, then let my cousin marry her. He's an adult now, that way, cousin gets a wife, and we save on the bride price. Aunt was furious. You little beast, what kind of talk is that? You will meet this Scarlett, whether you want to or not. Don't forget, your sister is still at home. There are so many people arranging ghost marriages nowadays. In the next village over, a boy just died, about your sister's age, waiting for a ghost marriage match. My hand, hidden in my sleeve, slowly clenched. This animal, they actually had the audacity to consider arranging a ghost marriage for my sister. I forced myself to calm down, speaking in a weak, compromising tone. All right, I'll go meet them. My heart had already turned cold. Since you don't want the life you just got back, then don't blame me. 10. When this news reached Grandma's ears, her old face was practically beaming with joy. Good, good, good. I've always said, what's the use of reading so many books? It's better to settle down and start a family soon. Then I'll find a matchmaker to arrange a meeting, so we can soon get her dowry. Oh no, I mean, get this good thing settled, I said calmly. We have to meet first, Grandma. We young people have our own way of doing things. This time, Grandma was unusually accommodating. In the end, it was decided that in 2 days, when Scarlett visits my aunt in the hospital, I would meet her there. After saying that, Grandma went to boil water. Watching her hunched back, a chill ran through my heart. Fine. Let's see who will regret it then. On the day of the appointment, Grandma sent me to deliver the meal again. When I arrived at Aunt's hospital room, Scarlett hadn't come yet. Aunt beckoned me to sit beside her, showing me a kind smile for the first time, which sent shivers down my spine. It further confirmed the suspicion that this was a setup. Aunt held my hand, her eyes filled with faint affection. Oh my, in the blink of an eye, our Ian has grown into a fine young man. You go wait in the empty room next door. Room 402, so you don't catch my illness here when the time comes. You two can have a good chat. I lowered my head and obediently went out, turning toward room 402. This is the innermost ward on the west side, currently still vacant. I leaned closer and peeked through the door crack, catching sight of a slender figure sitting on the edge of the bed, dressed lightly. I smiled faintly, didn't go in, and sent a message to my cousin. I left the game console you wanted in ward 402. Come up and get it, but don't let Auntie find out. 11. I sat quietly by the stairwell and waited. Before long, I saw my cousin rushing over, pushing open the door to 402 and walking right in soon. The sound of conversation came from inside. Then, the air was filled with seductive music. Less than 3 minutes later, a scream rang out. Rape, help. My cousin was arrested by the police. I was the one who called the police. When the doctors and nurses rushed over upon hearing the noise, they found Scarlett inside, disheveled and sobbing, suspected of rape. My cousin was pinned down by security. When she heard the commotion, my aunt pushed the wheelchair in and saw her cousin battered and swollen, as if struck by a club. She froze for a moment, then shouted, "Son, why you? They were supposed to arrest that bastard Ian. Let go, let go. You've got the wrong person. The one who raped Scarlett is Ian." Scarlett looked up, confused. "He's not Ian." I leisurely poked my head out from outside the door. "I'm Ian. Who's calling me?" Scarlett froze. My aunt froze too, then suddenly pointed at me and started cursing. "It was you, you jinx." I smiled faintly but didn't respond, instead turning my gaze to Scarlett. "Were you looking for me just now? What did you need?" Then, I meaningfully glanced at my cousin who was being restrained. "Oh, what's going on here? What did he do? You better not be framing him." Scarlett was speechless. She looked at me, then at my cousin, and suddenly pointed at him and shouted, "Who is he? I don't know him, but he's the one who raped me." As the police arrived, Scarlett insisted that she was resting there when her cousin suddenly barged in, was overcome by lust, and attempted to rape her. The cousin cried out in protest, claiming that Scarlett had seduced him. Both parties stuck to their own stories. However, overall, the cousin was at a disadvantage. After all, the woman was accusing him of rape, and he was caught in the act. I later found out why Scarlett had cooperated with my aunt and the others in slandering me. Scarlett was 3 months pregnant. She urgently needed someone to take responsibility, but they were afraid I wouldn't agree, so they came up with this plan. But it's okay, even if they couldn't get me, getting a cousin is something the Song family is willing to accept. They immediately expressed willingness to settle privately. However, the cousin must provide the money and bride price to marry Scarlett. When taken away by the police, my aunt fainted once. When threatened by the Song family, my aunt fainted again. Of course, Grandma and Aunt didn't agree to let my cousin become the fall guy. Grandma pointed at me and scolded, saying it was all my fault. I continued to play the victim. What does this have to do with me? I just misheard and waited in room 204 for ages. Who would have thought something like this could happen? The whole thing became a complete mess, but Grandma and the others no longer had the time to settle scores with me. The Song family kept coming to the hospital to make a scene. Every other day, Aunt's condition kept worsening from the anger, and she needed immediate surgery. The huge surgery bill made Grandma immediately start wailing and cursing in the hospital, accusing the hospital of scamming and extorting money. But unfortunately, the money still had to be paid. Before Grandma could even finish her performance at the hospital, news came from the village that my cousin had been in a fight, injured someone, and was already detained at the police station, waiting for Grandma to bail him out. Auntie mumbled, trying to shout, but she could no longer muster a roar. You're talking nonsense. My son is the reincarnation of the literary star. How could he possibly get into a fight? After calming Auntie down, Grandma shot me a fierce glare, wanting to pinch my arm, but I dodged it. You little beast, take good care of your aunt. I'll settle the score with you when I get back. Grandma hurried away. Looking at my aunt, whose spirit was nearly broken, I slowly sat down in front of her and played her a video. The video I took showed my cousin entering room 402 from start to finish. TSK, Auntie, look. Cousin couldn't resist the temptation at all. My aunt's eyes widened instantly. You knew all along. You knew all along. I smiled faintly and kept provoking him. That's right. I was the one who tricked my cousin into going to 402. Not only that, I deliberately gave my cousin a bunch of money to run wild, and I purposely arranged for him to meet those thugs. My cousin is completely ruined, so is your health. Grandma won't be able to scrape together that much money for your surgery, and you might as well just wait to die. My aunt's eyes widened. She reached up to pinch and hit me like she always did, but her hand barely extended halfway before she clutched her chest in pain, struggling to breathe. In my aunt's resentful and despairing gaze, I watched calmly, waiting until she completely lost consciousness before pressing the emergency call button for her. I wouldn't let her die so easily. Dying so easily would be too worthless. She should die by my grandmother's hand. 12. The surgery was scheduled quickly. I rushed home to prepare nutritional supplements for my aunt. Grandma made some side dishes and plain porridge. Your aunt is having surgery. I have to go be with her, and you're coming with me. When it's time to clean up after her, you'll do it. What are you looking at? There's none for you. An ungrateful wretch like you would just waste it. I lowered my head and said, the doctor said not to eat before surgery. I deliberately emphasized the word eat. Grandma raised an eyebrow. Why are you so rigid? They only said not to eat, so just give your aunt some vegetables and porridge. How can she get through the surgery without eating? You have no good intentions at all. Upon seeing this, I fell silent and obediently lowered my head. Grandmother snorted, seeming quite pleased with her little cleverness. Before the surgery, the doctor came over as usual to ask, you haven't eaten anything this morning, have you? Grandmother stood up and waved her hands repeatedly. No. How could we possibly forget what the doctor said? As she stood up, Grandmother gave the trash can a little kick under the bed, where the plastic containers holding the dishes and porridge were stashed. I lowered my head beside her, hiding the curl of my lips, and said nothing. Not long after the surgery began, the nurse hurried out to question us, asking if we had secretly fed my aunt. While my grandmother was whispering sarcastic remarks in my ear, she said she had found another wealthy widow for me and insisted that I must get married as soon as possible. This time, when we heard the doctor say that my aunt had suffocated and died during the surgery due to food reflux from her stomach into her trachea, my grandmother froze in place. When she saw my aunt's body, she threw herself on the ground and cried bitterly, though it was unclear for whose benefit she was putting on This show, she still wanted to make a scene, but the responsibility lay entirely with her. It was she who had ignored the doctor's orders and secretly fed my aunt. It was she who deceived the doctor, claiming she hadn't fed her aunt. It was she who caused her own daughter's death. When I helped pull my aunt's body back to the village, Grandma discovered the house had been completely ransacked, the bank book was gone, and all the valuable items had vanished. After asking the neighbors, we learned that my cousin had returned, left shortly after with bags packed. Grandma's world collapsed, all her retirement savings were gone, and there wasn't even enough money to bury my aunt. Only I remained by her side. Expressionless, she abused my sister and me for so many years, yet in the end, it was us who stayed by her side. After grieving for half a day, seeing the family savings drained and with no material security left, Grandma no longer cared about her recently deceased daughter, and simply tossed her body on a random hillside. She couldn't even be bothered to send her to the crematorium. What awaited my aunt was the fate of being devoured by wild dogs. On the way down the hill, Grandma, with tears and snot streaming down her face, grabbed my hand. Now it's just you and Joy left to keep this old woman company. You're the only one Grandma can rely on. Be a good girl, take out the savings your parents left you, and let Grandma keep them safe for you. I know you must still have some. She held my hand tightly, as if afraid I might run away. At 13, as it turned out, I really did run away the next day. That night, I packed my things and left with my sister, went to the city, bought bus tickets, and headed to where I went to school. Life was tough in a strange place, but at least it was hopeful and went the way I wanted. Through a friend's connections, I managed to get my sister enrolled as a visiting student at a nearby elementary school. After walking my sister to school every day, I rushed to my 8 a.m. class. In the evening, I picked her up as early as possible. Just hold on for 2 more years, until I graduate. Everything will get better then. I heard Grandma nearly went crazy after she couldn't find me, but none of the neighbors pitied her, nor were they willing to tell her which university I was attending. She and my aunt had offended everyone with their disgraceful behavior. Grandma didn't make it through that winter, dying alone and desolate in the old house. The police eventually tracked me down. They asked me to return to identify the body and handle Grandma's funeral arrangements. I told the police about the abuse I had suffered before, my tone flat. My grandmother's favorite was my cousin. Why don't you look for him? There was a pause on the other end of the line. He got into a fight and was stabbed to death 2 months ago. After a long silence, I laughed. I'll go back tomorrow. The call ended, and I rubbed my little sister's head. The trash at home is all gone. Now, when your brother graduates, I'll work hard to earn money and give you a better home. That night, I slept exceptionally well. In the dream, the scene of being killed in my past life gradually blurred, and the new life for my sister and me had only just begun. Story 2. My roommate is basically a human surveillance camera. Every time I buy something new, she's always the first to notice. When my mom got me a limited edition bag, she showed up with a knockoff version the very next day. I upgraded to the latest phone, and she started carrying around a dummy model just for show. She even stole photos from my black tie event's social media post to claim she'd been invited to a fashion show. When I finally confronted her, she called me petty, oversensitive, and paranoid, then spread malicious rumors about me across campus. The gossip spiraled into absurdity, driving me into depression and forcing me to suspend my studies. But the ultimate shock came when she got plastic surgery to replicate my appearance. Once you're gone, I'll become you completely. When I opened my eyes again, my roommate was comparing my social media posts while holding a knockoff, ready to post the same style. I immediately screenshotted my chat with the sales associate and posted it. That's odd. Wasn't this bag supposed to be the only one in the entire country? Copying me? Let's see how long your wallet can keep up. Click, click. In the dead of night, the dorm was eerily quiet, but I was jolted awake by the frantic sound of a camera shutter. I instinctively glanced under the bed and saw Mabel frantically taking pictures of her newly purchased knockoff designer bag. When I saw the freshly posted 9-grid photo collage on social media, it suddenly hit me. I had truly been reborn. In my previous life, Mabel and I were assigned to the same dorm room. No matter what I did, she would meticulously copy every move. I carry a limited edition bag, and the next day she shows up with a knockoff version. I upgrade to the latest smartphone, and she parades around with a $130 dummy phone from Pinduoduo, pretending it's the real deal. Even when I attend a gala and post happy moments on social media, she screenshots my photos, photoshops her face onto them, and claims she's at a fashion show. She's like a thief, brazenly stealing fragments of my life to piece together her own identity. Over time, even my friends, classmates, and teachers started having trouble telling Mabel and me apart. After being mistaken for Mabel for the 100th time, I finally couldn't take it anymore and confronted her but there she was, hiding behind my boyfriend in the outfit I'd just reserved from the runway show, the one I hadn't even picked up yet, looking at me with feigned innocence. Sophie, I don't blame you for being so consumed by vanity that you'd let some sugar daddy fund your obsession with copying my designer wardrobe, but you keep insisting you're some rich heiress. And I won't stand for it. Everyone thinks I've lost my mind, they all quietly distance themselves from me, thinking I'm both vain and a liar. Even my own boyfriend chose to side with Mabel and broke up with me. I was engulfed by all sorts of rumors and developed severe depression. In the end, I couldn't bear the gossip anymore and jumped to my death, but Mabel had plastic surgery to look like me, took my place, and effortlessly stole everything that was rightfully mine. Seeing her meticulously curated 9-grid photos on social media, I let out a light chuckle, then posted my chat history with essay to my feed. Caption: I'm so lucky, the boutique salesgirl said this bag is a global limited edition of just one piece, and I managed to snag it. Then I turned off my phone and buried myself under the covers to sleep. The next morning, Mabel shook me awake before I was even fully conscious. She stood by my bed holding her phone, her eyes glistening with tears as she asked me what my recent WeChat post meant. I was startled by the huge dark circles under her eyes, and only after double-checking that the creature before me was human and not some giant panda did I speak calmly. Oh, the limited edition bag I ordered arrived. I was so thrilled I posted about it on my social media. Feel free to post yours too if you want. Mabel's face flushed bright red. She opened her mouth several times but couldn't manage to get a single word out. It was me who caught a glimpse of the counterfeit bag she'd photographed last night, and I spoke with a faint smile. You bought this bag too, but I distinctly remember the sales associate telling me there was only one in the world. My raised voice immediately drew the attention of our other roommates. All eyes turned to Mabel. Someone even blurted out, Mabel, Sophie's bags are all over $1 million. I remember your family isn't that well off. Since when could you afford such an expensive bag? The roommate didn't mean anything by it. It was just an offhand question, but Mabel, feeling guilty, immediately flushed bright red. She tossed the bag into her closet as if it were a hot potato and stammered in a panic. I don't know. I just thought the design was cute, so I picked one up for casual use. I'd lost count of how many times I'd heard that same excuse in my past life. Mabel was just so convincing that I actually believed she meant no harm, that it was just a bit of vanity. But now, glancing at the mountain of knockoffs piled in her closet, I casually remarked, there's nothing wrong with liking a particular style, but it's downright cringe when some people try so hard to imitate others and force their way into social circles where they clearly don't belong. Seeing Mabel's face darken with displeasure gave me more than just a little satisfaction. I immediately slung my new designer bag over my shoulder and headed to the courier station. On this very day in my previous life, my father had bought me the latest model phone. But before I could even unbox it, Mabel had already pulled out a replica. Drawing envious gazes from our classmates, it completely killed my mood to explore my new phone. She probably won't have time to pick up her model phone today, which means I can finally spend some quality time exploring my new device. But I'd underestimated just how shameless Mabel could be. The moment I stepped into the classroom, I saw a crowd gathered around Mabel, making impressed clicking sounds with their tongues. When I listened more closely, I nearly burst out laughing right then and there. The crowd was gathered around Mabel, marveling at the prototype phone in her hands. Mabel, is that the new triple fold phone? How does that slogan go again? Triple the folds, endless style, no matter how you fold it. This phone must be close to 20 grand, right? And Mabel, that new bag of yours, I saw it on TV, a limited runway edition, over 2 million, sugar mama, I bow down to you. The unanimous flattery nearly sent Mabel floating on cloud 9. She maintained her usual affected demeanor, covering her mouth as she said, oh, it's nothing really, but the smile tugging at her lips was harder to suppress than an AK-47's recoil. The moment her eyes landed on me entering the classroom, her smile froze instantly. I instinctively tried to move my bag off the desk, but someone with sharp eyes had already noticed mine was identical to Mabel's. They immediately questioned, didn't Mabel say this bag was a global limited edition with only one in existence? How come you have one too? Sophie, wait, Sophie's bag actually feels higher quality than Mabel's. Which one of you has the real deal and which has the knockoff? Mabel shot me a pleading look too. I knew she was afraid I'd spill the beans about her buying that knockoff bag. I won't say a word. What's the point of calling her out directly? What I endured in my past life was 10,000 times more agonizing than this. I want Mabel to choke on the bitter fruit she herself has sown. Now that's what I call payback. Who cares if it's authentic or a knockoff? If you paid real money for it, it's the real deal, am I right, Mabel? My words didn't satisfy Mabel, but they did make her breathe a huge sigh of relief. With a strained smile tugging at her lips, she echoed my words. Sophie is right. If it was bought with real money, then it's real. Besides, see, she already paid the taxes for these foreign brands back in the day. What difference does it make which one we buy now? I was almost convinced by Mabel's reasoning, but if her acting skills were just a bit better, enough to conceal the resentment in her eyes, I might have actually believed her. My gaze swept over the model phone in her hand as I deliberately broke the silence. "Oh, you got a new phone, and it's the latest triple-fold model. Mabel, I've never seen a triple-fold phone before. Why don't you show it to the class? That's really not necessary. It's just a phone." Mabel, who had just been staring at me with a resentful look, now flashed a panicked expression again, frantically trying to shove her dummy phone into the desk compartment, but I was quick to react and snatched the phone away in an instant. Just as I was about to expose her lie, Mabel thought on her feet and yelled, "The teacher's coming." All the students immediately scrambled back to their seats. Mabel quickly grabbed the phone back from my hand. "Sophie, this is Monica's class. She's really strict with students, and I don't want you to get punished. You should hurry back to your seat too, but I'm in no rush. There's plenty of time, and I have more than enough ways to deal with her. Besides, this cat and mouse game is actually quite entertaining." For the entire class period, I deliberately placed my phone in the most conspicuous spot. Sometimes I'd jot down notes, other times I'd just doodle. Even when Monica called me out, I put on an innocent face and spoke up. "Professor, your lecture was absolutely brilliant. Just listening didn't feel like enough. I had to take notes, so I recorded the class. I planned to organize it into digital notes later to preserve everything properly." Despite her short temper, Monica ate up the flattery and immediately told all the students to follow my example. Mabel's face twisted with envy as she watched everyone's attention focus on me, but there was nothing she could do about it. After all, she was only holding a prototype, not the actual trifold phone. After class, a bunch of classmates crowded around me, begging to get a look at my brand new phone. I was feeling generous and didn't turn anyone away. Seeing me being the center of attention, Mabel's eyes once again flashed with resentment, but when she met my mocking gaze, even though she was seething with frustration, she had no choice but to swallow her pride, gather her books, and leave. But I knew Mabel wouldn't let this go so easily. Sure enough, before I even left the classroom, I saw her shyly stop my boyfriend and plead with him. "Senior, I've never been to a charity gala before. Why don't you take me along to broaden my horizons?" Mabel batted her eyes, and with that innocent face of hers, she really did have that delicate, damsel in distress vibe. Too bad her innocent face couldn't hide her venomous heart. Seeing my boyfriend hesitate, she actually grabbed his arm and pressed herself against him, rubbing her flat chest against his arm. She spoke in a pitiful tone. "Senior, I really want to go. I heard the charity gala donates to children in impoverished mountain areas, and I'd like to contribute my part too. Come on, take me with you. For Sophie's sake, I'm her best friend." No matter how much Mabel acted out, I could put up with it, but when she started pulling shady stunts using my name, that was the last straw. I immediately strode over in my heels, stopping right in front of them, and spoke with a blank expression. "Mabel, I really don't deserve to be your bestie. After all, real best friends don't copy your every move, down to the last detail of what you wear and use." "Oh, but I wouldn't exactly call it copying. My bag costs millions, and my phone is 20,000 yuan, you know, while you can only afford a 990 knockoff from Pinduoduo, shipping included. But I have to admit, your fake phone looks incredibly real. If you don't turn it on, it's practically indistinguishable from the real thing." My words immediately made Mabel bristle with anger. She wanted to yell at me, but my boyfriend was right there. In the end, she had to suppress her rage and apologized to me with a feigned look of grievance. "I'm sorry, Sophie, I truly consider you my bestie, which is why I wanted us to have matching bestie items. If I've caused you any distress, I'm willing to apologize." Psycho, she knows she's causing trouble but keeps doing whatever she wants. Is she just naturally obnoxious? And of course my boyfriend totally fell for it, stepping in front of Mabel to speak up for her. "Sophie, why do you have to be so vicious? Mabel came to the charity gala with good intentions. It was just a coincidence that she wore the same dress as you. Do you have to be so cutting with your words?" My ex-boyfriend was just the same. He always took her side immediately whenever Mabel and I had a conflict, even when I was targeted by online rumors and cyberbullying. You never once spoke up in my defense. Instead, you were all lovey-dovey with Mabel, engaging in sweet interactions. Seeing that scumbag again made me realize how blind I had been to ever fall for him. Letting out a cold laugh, I didn't immediately break up with that total jerk. Instead, I fixed my gaze on Mabel beside him. "Since you're so eager to go, here's an invitation for you, but I should mention up front this is a charity gala, and the entry ticket costs 100,000 yuan. Once inside, you'll also be expected to participate in the charity auction. If you're just going for the spectacle, I wouldn't recommend it. After all, children in impoverished mountain regions have no use for Prototype devices. My words struck Mabel's heart like a dagger once again. Her lips quivered as she prepared to put on her pitiful act, but I couldn't be bothered with her pathetic performance, so I hailed a cab directly to the boutique where I'd scheduled an appointment to pick up the gown I'd custom ordered a month ago specifically for this gala. I stayed silent. Little did I know just how audacious Mabel could be. Someone actually pretended to be me and picked up the gown early, after confirming the gown was given to the wrong person. The sales assistant was so frantic she was nearly in tears. Even the store manager came out to personally apologize to me and suggested calling the police, but I turned down their suggestion. So you enjoy stealing other people's things, do you? Well, I can't wait to see how she plans to get herself out of this mess. After changing into the backup dress my stylist assistant had prepared for me, I headed to the charity gala. Mabel was already inside, arm in arm with my boyfriend, wearing my haute couture gown and sporting makeup identical to mine. She'd even gone as far as getting subtle adjustments done to match me perfectly. At first glance, she really does bear a striking resemblance to me. Even the host for the evening came over and showed her the schedule for the charity gala. "Miss Chu, here's the schedule. Please take a look, and if everything seems in order, we can get started." Mabel's hands trembled with excitement as she eagerly took the schedule, giving it a perfunctory glance before speaking up. "I don't see any problems, let's get started." Yet my voice echoed through the hall. "Director Simon, are your eyes so dim with age that you can no longer recognize people?" Director Simon turned around and nearly dropped his jaw when he saw me standing at the entrance. "Miss Chu, haven't you already come in?" All eyes instantly turned to Mabel and me. You know what? From a distance, I actually do look quite similar to Mabel right now, especially in that six-figure haute couture gown she was wearing, covered in jewels, and carrying a limited edition bag worth millions. She looked more like a genuine heiress than I, the actual one, ever did. Whispers were already starting to ripple through the grand hall. Who is she? Why is her outfit so similar to Miss Chu's? Seems like one of them is an imposter. Which one is the real Miss Chu? It's definitely the one inside. Can't you see her clothes are more elegant? Besides, she came with the young master of the Jean family. She must be the real one. I didn't utter another word the entire time. I was waiting to see how Mabel and my boyfriend Harry would react, but to my disappointment, Harry showed no intention of offering any explanation. Same with Mabel. When she first saw me, a flicker of panic instinctively crossed her face, but after realizing no one present knew me, not even my boyfriend Harry spoke up for me, she immediately grew bold and initiated conversation with me. "Sweetie, what brings you here? Didn't I tell you this charity gala requires proof of funds? You can't afford the 100,000 yuan entry ticket, and after it starts, they'll auction items for donations. You might lack money, but you shouldn't lack compassion. Coming in just to take photos for show like you're doing, that'll bring bad karma." Mabel repeated every single thing I'd said to her earlier. They even took subtle digs at me, calling my actions a publicity stunt. If it were my past self, I would have confronted her right then and there, demanding to know why she'd slander me. I might have even whipped out my ID and slapped it right in her face, asking if she even knows how to read. But now I understand that the best comeback is to tear off that sanctimonious mask she's hiding behind. Ignoring her remark, I directly took the schedule from Director Simon's hand, pointing at several French phrases on it. I asked Mabel, "You claim to be Sophie, who grew up in France. Perhaps you could explain what these words mean?" A flicker of panic immediately crossed Mabel's face. She wanted to make excuses, but all those eyes were watching her from behind. Just as her lie was about to be exposed, Harry stepped in to speak up for her. "Quite interesting. Are you for real? It's just a few words. What's the big deal? Do you have to be so difficult?" I almost rolled my eyes to the back of my head. He's the one who's interesting, isn't he? Ignoring his actual girlfriend to hang out with some cheap knockoff. What's the appeal? For that she's easy? That she's better at sucking up than I am? Well, I'm definitely no match for that, I told Harry with a beaming smile. It may seem trivial, but a slight deviation in these few words could lead to a major error, potentially derailing the entire charity event. With that, I explained to Director Simon in fluent French how to make the corrections. Director Simon nodded repeatedly and immediately went to make the revisions. Mabel's face flushed crimson all the way to her ears, tears of grievance welling up in her eyes. Harry comforted her in a soft, gentle voice. I shot a sidelong glance at the lovey-dovey pair, my eyes filled with nothing but disdain. Frankly, I'm worried these two might not be able to handle the grand surprise I have in store for them. I have to say, Mabel's got skin thicker than a city wall. Even after being publicly exposed as the imposter, she bounced back quickly with just a few comforting words from Harry. Watching them huddle together discussing today's auction items, all I could see was that scene from my past life, Harry shielding Mabel while she hurled false accusations at me. Birds of a feather, I raised my paddle, ready to bid on the item on stage, when Mabel suddenly turned to me and said, "Sophie, I really like this piece, would you let me have it?" With so many items up for auction tonight, she hadn't shown interest in a single one until now. I was just about to make a move, and she's already fallen for him. I thought the last incident would have taught her to behave for a while, but I guess a copycat will always be a copycat. Some bad habits just die hard. Keeping a straight face, I calmly told her, "No." Mabel immediately put on a hurt expression. "Why, Sophie, I know you don't like me, but I genuinely want this auction item. Besides, I'd like to do my part for the children in impoverished mountain regions." The way she said it, anyone listening would think I'd done something to hurt her again. I cut her off immediately. "If you want it, just bid. This is an auction, highest offer wins. Did you really think saying you like it would make everyone step aside? Come on, even if this were a standard auction roll, which it isn't, this is a charity gala. Every cent from the bidding goes to children in rural areas. If everyone were as stingy as you, why even hold a charity event? We might as well call it off." I didn't raise my voice, but it was loud enough for those nearby to hear. Unfriendly glances were directed at Mabel from several people. Some people didn't even hold back their comments. "If you can't afford it, why even come to a charity gala?" Exactly, trying to cut corners on charity, you might as well not bother. How embarrassing. She even pretended to be the Chu family's young lady before. It just goes to show, you can't make a silk purse out of a sow's ear. The whispers made Harry feel embarrassed, and he instinctively distanced himself from Mabel. Mabel started to panic. She had pulled out all the stops just to get Harry to agree to bring her to this charity gala. She was even counting on him to buy some auction items so she could take photos for her social media feed. If we offend our generous benefactor, we'll end up with nothing, won't we? With that thought, she quickly linked arms with Harry and apologized. "I'm sorry, Senior, it's my first time at a charity gala, so I'm not quite familiar with the etiquette, but I genuinely want to make a contribution for the children. You won't look down on me, will you? This tea is truly exceptional." And yet, Harry totally fell for it. His previously tense expression immediately softened. He even took out his own card and handed it to Mabel. "Don't worry about it. Everyone has to start somewhere. The fact that you care means a lot. Unlike some people who throw their weight around just because they come from privileged families, I think I'm starting to understand why Harry keeps getting involved with Mabel. So it's because I'm too wealthy and arrogant, but he has no idea. The innocent, kind-hearted, delicate little flower he sees me as is about to give him a huge surprise." After Mabel's interference, I lost all interest in the auction item I originally wanted. In the end, Mabel snagged that auction item for $100,000. The moment the deal was sealed, Mabel shot me a triumphant look. "Seriously, what's there to gloat about?" But then things took an interesting turn. No matter what I bid on, Mabel always has to stick her nose in, and every single time, she outbids me. At first I didn't mind, since all the money was going to charity anyway, but when the final item came up, Mabel drove up the price again and made snide remarks about me. "Sophie, isn't your family quite well off? How come you haven't bid on anything at this charity gala? Don't tell me you're broke and just came in to take some photos for your social media posts." Mabel's voice was so loud that everyone's heads instantly snapped in her direction, but they weren't looking at me, they were staring at her. Mabel was taken aback when her words failed to have the intended effect. But being adept at self-justification, she didn't see anything wrong with her behavior. Instead, she let out a contemptuous snort. "If you're not going to take the photo, I will. Don't ever call me a copycat again. I wouldn't stoop to imitating someone as tacky as you." What a moron. She probably doesn't realize I'm the one who organized tonight's charity gala, regardless of how much everyone contributes. I'll add an extra 20% and send it along with the auction proceeds to impoverished mountain regions. But there's no need for me to explain any of this to Mabel. He quietly added $1 more after each of her bids. The amount was small, but the insult cut deep. Mabel couldn't stand this kind of humiliation. Besides, some sucker had given her his card today and told her to spend freely. Mabel, who'd never experienced the life of the wealthy, was going all out to compete with me. A perfectly ordinary child's drawing, and she drove the bid from 1,000 all the way to 1,000,000, with the price still skyrocketing. When the bidding hit 5 million, even Harry beside her was getting restless and tried to tuck her down. "Mabel, it's just a painting, maybe you should let it go." But Mabel, blinded by rage, couldn't hear a word he was saying. She kept raising her bid, relentlessly driving the price up to 6 million. This time, Harry lost his temper too and snatched the bidding paddle right out of her hand. "Enough. Mabel, this is my money, not yours. How dare you raise the price?" Without consulting me, Mabel still seemed completely unaware of her mistake. Even Sophie agreed to the increase. A vein bulged on Harry's forehead as he finally snapped, unable to contain his anger any longer. Sophie is the eldest daughter of the Chu family. Who do you think you are? How dare a cheap knockoff compare yourself to Sophie? Get over yourself. Mabel hated nothing more than being called a knockoff. She worked so hard to imitate me, not to end up as some second-rate copy, but to replace me. She had just gotten a taste of it, only to have it snatched away after mere hours. The whiplash was too much to bear, but no matter how furious she was, she didn't dare forget that the man before her was Harry, the man who had brought her into this charity gala, giving her her first taste of a life beyond imitation. It was her golden ticket to high society in the long run, so no matter how furious she was, she had to swallow her anger and apologize to Harry. I'm sorry, Senior, I let my emotions get the better of me. I'm withdrawing my bid on this lot. I'll let Sophie have it. Mabel was very gracious. I let out a cold laugh. Let you have it. My apologies for not continuing the bid. The item is yours. Mabel was taken aback that I actually refused, and quickly turned to Harry beside her for help, but Harry, who had already been swindled out of millions, couldn't be bothered with her and simply turned and walked away. Mabel realized she had gone too far and, in a panic, grabbed her bag and tried to slip away. However, the banquet staff stopped her. Excuse me, ma'am, you'll need to settle the bill before leaving. But Mabel was flat broke. She tried playing the sympathy card, hoping the staff would let her slip away, but charity galas operate by their own rules. Her usual tricks wouldn't cut it here. Seeing that the staff really had no intention of letting her leave, Mabel had a quick wit and hurriedly took out her bag to speak. This bag of mine is worth several million. How about you take this to settle the debt? The staff exchanged glances, and the looks they gave Mabel were rather indescribable. I couldn't help but burst out laughing right then. She shot me a fierce glare, her fragility only making it more intense. What are you laughing at, Sophie? This is all your fault. If it weren't for you, I wouldn't be in this mess. But I only laughed harder. Your own vanity is what ruined you. What does that have to do with me, and that bag you're carrying? You stole it from me, didn't you? Using stolen goods to pay off a debt. Do you have no shame? I didn't, Mabel instinctively retorted, even raising her voice at me. Do you have any proof? How dare you accuse me without evidence? Even back in school, you always enjoyed picking on me. Sophie, I'll admit my family background isn't as privileged as yours, but nobody gets to choose where they're born. Does growing up with less mean I deserve your bullying? Well said, well said. Brilliantly put. Even I couldn't help but applaud her brilliant speech. Some bystanders even stepped forward to speak up for Mabel. That's right, Miss Chu. Even if Miss Wang made a mistake, she meant well. You can't condemn someone for a single misstep. Miss Wang has already apologized. What more do you want? If you pay off her 6 million debt for her, I'll apologize to her right away. How about that? With that one sentence, he completely silenced everyone. My gaze then fell upon Mabel, who stood before me with a face full of resentment, and I told her, you wanted proof, didn't you? Fine, I'll give it to you right now. Then, I dumped all the evidence at once, the bag order records from the sales associate and the surveillance footage from the gown boutique. 6. I even exposed Mabel's purchase records for counterfeit goods. With such irrefutable evidence, no amount of excuses from Mabel could change the facts, yet she still refused to apologize, merely claiming she had a momentary lapse in judgment and begged for my forgiveness. I smiled back and told her, forgiving you is what a saint would do, but sorry, I'm no saint. Without hesitation, I dialed the police. Mabel finally panicked, dropping to her knees and begging me not to call the cops. I didn't even acknowledge her, just watched as she was escorted into the police station. I thought that was the end of it, but the next day, Mabel showed up at school again, acting as if nothing had happened. Not only that, but her whole style had changed. All the knockoffs she used to wear were replaced with the real deal. She even gave every classmate an expensive little gift. The whole class was beaming with joy, praising her for her beauty, kindness, and generosity. Mabel's smile stretched from ear to ear. My instincts told me something was off, and I wanted to step out of the classroom to investigate, but Mabel had already spotted me and called out, Sophie, you're here. About yesterday, it was all a misunderstanding, I told you. I had a fight with my family, and they froze my bank card on short notice. I don't blame you for not giving me face. I've got a special gift for you. Let's see if you like it. I knew it. Mabel was lying again, but what worried me more was this big surprise she kept mentioning. In my previous life, after copying everything about me, she even had plastic surgery to look like me and framed me for her promiscuous behavior. I became the target of public cyberbullying and false accusations. The relentless harassment eventually drove me to jump from a high-rise ending my own life. But now, without having had plastic surgery, what tricks would Mabel use against me? Whatever her methods, I didn't want to face them unprepared. I declined Mabel's gift, telling her I had a stomachache and needed to use the restroom. Unusually, Mabel didn't try to stop me. Instead, she shoved a pack of tissues into my hand, clutching that crumpled paper. I stepped into the restroom. But my anxiety only grew. I unlocked my phone, intending to search for any recent updates about Mabel. Instead, I found my photos spreading like wildfire across the campus network. Picture after picture I'd never seen before, intimate shots with an unfamiliar older man, were being shared online. Even though it's not in high definition, that doesn't stop people from recognizing her at all. Soon enough, a huge uproar erupted on the campus forum, with someone pointing it out immediately. Isn't that the flashy, always dressed up rich girl from our department? What's her name? Sophie, right? Damn, seeing her act all high and mighty every day, I actually thought she was some rich heiress. Turns out she's just a kept woman. How much do you think she charges per night? All sorts of vile insults flooded my vision, exactly like the scene from my past life. My mind kept flashing back to my previous life, being cyberbullied and humiliated, with people even blocking my dorm room door to call me a shameless slut. I felt like I was about to faint even after being reborn. Am I still bound by fate's design? No, I refuse to believe it. There must be a way out of this. Forcing myself to pull it together, I put away my phone and returned to the classroom as if nothing was wrong. The classroom was as lively as ever, but the way everyone looked at me had completely changed. Mabel shot me a triumphant look, as if I were already in her pocket, but after waiting for what felt like ages, she still hadn't gotten any reaction from me. Finally, unable to contain herself any longer, Mabel came over to strike up a conversation. Sophie, everyone's saying you're always decked out in gold and jewels because you're being kept by someone. Is that true? Who said that? I asked, forcing down my anger and feigning calm. Mabel immediately pulled out her phone. Look, it's all over the campus forum. Sophie, don't take this the wrong way, but I used to think you were just vain, copying everything I did. But you can't just sell yourself out for money. You're still so young, selling yourself to some old man for a bit of cash. What a waste. Mabel seemed to be speaking up for me, but every word she said was actually throwing mud at me. If it were the me from my past life, I would have already lost my temper and started arguing with her, but now I'm eerily calm, scrutinizing those images over and over, hoping to find some flaw to counterattack, and I actually found one. When I noticed the old man's watch was only worth a few $1,000, I let out a cold laugh and shot back at Mabel. If your brain's malfunctioning, maybe you should get it checked at a hospital. I carry bags worth millions, and he's wearing a watch that costs just a few thousand, a second-hand one at that. An old man like him thinks he can keep me. Is he even worthy? Mabel was stunned. She clearly hadn't expected me to say that. About to say more, I glanced again at the old man in the photo and deliberately spoke up. Why does this guy look familiar to me? Mabel, he's the one who bailed you out of the police station last night, isn't he? Take a closer look. The person in this photo doesn't just resemble me, they look a lot like you too, especially this mole. It's exactly like yours. I was just trying to bluff Mabel. To my surprise, panic instantly washed over her face. She tried to act composed. What nonsense are you talking? Sophie, you bitch, you just can't stand to see me happy. The moment I saw her reaction, I knew I'd hit the nail on the head. Without hesitation, I made another call to the police station. Mabel finally broke down, her legs giving way as she collapsed to the floor. She wept uncontrollably, begging me to give her a break. I shook off her hand and stepped aside. Where was this concern earlier? Everyone must face the consequences of their actions. Mabel hadn't even been out for 24 hours before she was sent back in, but this time, she would never get another chance to leave. After being set up repeatedly, my father found out about the situation. He tracked down the man who was keeping Mabel and called him. Without hesitation, they immediately apologized to me and repeatedly promised not to offer Mabel any further assistance. Mabel was sentenced to 10 years in prison for theft and defamation, yet rumors about her continued to circulate around campus, some even maliciously photoshopped images, turning her various misdeeds into memes. Mabel couldn't bear the vicious gossip for long and ended up taking her own life. And then there was my boyfriend, Harry. Oh, wait, I should say ex-boyfriend now. He came to me after Mabel's suicide, begging to get back together. Sophie, I was wrong before. I never expected Mabel to be that kind of person. I'm truly sorry. Can we give us another chance? Get back together. My family has always been better off than Harry's. I only got together with him because he wouldn't take no for an answer. Now that I know what a scumbag he is, why would I stay with him? I took out the bill from the auction that Mabel owed and handed it Directly to Harry, "First, pay back what you owe, then we can talk about other things, can't handle it already." Confronted with that exorbitant bill, Harry opened his mouth to protest but ultimately slunk away in disgrace. I didn't let him off the hook either, sending the bill directly to his family home. Word has it Harry's father hit the roof, giving him a solid thrashing on the spot and freezing his bank account. 7. When Harry returned to school later, he was not only limping but had been reduced to eating the standard cafeteria food with everyone else. This got posted on the campus forum again and sparked quite a discussion, but I know Harry brought this all on himself. Back when he was still playing the rich heir, he put on airs and called the regular meals pig slop, saying only pigs would eat it. Now it's his turn to get a taste of online bullying. As for me, I've tucked away all my designer handbags and custom-made outfits in the closet, switching to simple, understated clothing instead. Going through this experience taught me a valuable lesson. Some people are just born with jealousy running through their veins. The best way to protect yourself is to keep your wealth under wraps. Story 2. I am the foremost great ascension cultivator in the immortal realm. A millennium after marrying Lyle, his white moonlight reincarnated to resume cultivation. He spent every day personally instructing her in cultivation arts, never sparing me another glance. Later, to protect his white moonlight during her trials, he went to great lengths to steal and replace my supreme defensive treasure. Left me mortally wounded on the battlefield against demonic forces. To survive, I had to burn through my life essence by chance. This awakened my latent phoenix bloodline, granting me rebirth through nirvana. Upon awakening, the heavenly Tao summoned me, commanding my imminent ascension. 7 days later, while Lyle was secluded in alchemy for his unattainable love, I ascended to the immortal realm before the eyes of the entire continent. When he emerged and learned the news, he shattered on the spot, devoting every waking moment to cultivation in hopes of ascending to see me. But with his mediocre talent, he'll never even glimpse the threshold of Mahayana in this lifetime. After his seclusion ended, my ascended best friend sent me a celestial message, confirming my imminent ascension. I'm absolutely thrilled. Moira, you've finally come to your senses. That loser Lyle was never worthy of you. The ascension ceremony is in 7 days. Get ready, I'll personally come to escort you. My best friend couldn't contain her excitement, while I could only manage a bitter smile. After all these millennia by Lyle's side, this is the thanks I get. I must have been blind all along. Just as I severed the communication link, Lyle materialized behind me with a puzzled tone. Ascension? What ascension? His gaze fell on the communication stone in my hand. Who just contacted you? Is someone about to ascend? Lyle spoke while casually reaching for the communication stone in my grasp. 1. It would still bear traces of the transmission. I frowned and hurried to put it away, only to notice a butterfly fluttering near Lyle. The little butterfly spoke, but the voice was that of a familiar woman. Lyle, where are you? I've encountered demons, they're trying to kill me. I'm so scared. It was the voice of Dahlia, Lyle's unattainable first love. This butterfly was her magical artifact. Lyle visibly panicked upon hearing the fear and distress in that voice. Without another word, he vanished on the spot. Not a single word or explanation was offered to me. Never once did he ask if I'd been wounded in battle, nor why I'd gone into seclusion. Of course he wouldn't care whether I live or die. He even stole my defensive artifact for his precious white moonlight. I watched him vanish before my eyes without the slightest change in expression. Then I took out the communication stone again and sent the message to my best friend. My best friend ascended to immortality 1,000 years ago. Originally, I was meant to ascend with her, but on the eve of ascension, Lyle proposed to become cultivation partners with me. For his sake, I suppressed my cultivation and abandoned ascending to the upper realm. 1,000 years have passed since our marriage, but not long ago, his beloved Dahlia reincarnated to restart her cultivation. To accelerate Dahlia's progress, Lyle personally trained her in magic arts every single day, never sparing me another glance. Later, to protect his precious Dahlia during her trials, Lyle went so far as to scheme and steal my ultimate defensive treasure. This left me vulnerable. During the battle against the demonic forces, the demon lord ambushed me, leaving me mortally wounded. To save my life, I had to burn every last drop of my vital essence, even if it meant becoming a powerless cripple. Little did I know this would awaken my latent phoenix bloodline, granting me rebirth through nirvana. But in doing so, I revealed my true cultivation level to the heavenly Tao. The heavens have spoken. My ascension draws near. Perfect timing. I've no desire to linger here anyway. Every soul must walk their own path. I refuse to dumb myself down any longer. Lyle, I don't want this anymore. My best friend talked with me for hours, sharing all sorts of celestial rules and amusing anecdotes to cheer me up. The moment I disconnected the communication stone, Lyle came striding in with Dahlia cradled in his arms like a princess. He walked right past me and placed her directly on our wedding bed. With a worried expression, "Dahlia, are you hurt anywhere? Those damn demons, how dare they lay a finger on you?" At the mention of demons, Lyle radiated murderous intent. Dahlia smiled gently. "Thank goodness you came just in time, Lyle. I was just a bit startled, my heart still racing." Lyle's gaze lingered on Dahlia's chest before he pulled the blanket over her. His large hand affectionately stroked Dahlia's hair and caressed her cheek. "Rest here, I'll send someone to check on you." Lyle turned and walked out. It was as if I didn't exist. They completely ignored my presence the entire time, and my gaze fell upon the quilt covering Dahlia. I hand-stitched it thread by thread during my honeymoon with Lyle, using premium heavenly silk known for its wound-healing properties and cultivation benefits. I earned it through blood and sweat, scaling snow-capped mountains, battling the mountain guardian for 3 days straight, suffering 7 bite wounds, and sacrificing over a dozen magical artifacts. Dahlia caught my gaze, a faint smile playing at the corners of her lips. "Sister, with demons running rampant outside," Lyle couldn't help worrying. "That's why he brought me back. Please don't read too much into it, Sister Moira." As she spoke, Dahlia's fingers traced the silken embroidery of the celestial cocoon quilt in her arms. "They say Sister Moira stitched the celestial cocoon quilt thread by thread during her wedding days. It's truly exquisite. My deepest thanks, Sister Moira." I stared at her coldly. Dahlia said defiantly, "Don't look at me like that, Sister Moira. It's not like I asked for this blanket. Lyle gave it to me, so sorry if that upsets you." Dahlia threw off the blanket and shoved it into my hands. Her defiant expression instantly melted into pitiful distress. "I'm sorry, Moira. I shouldn't have used your blanket. Here, take it back. Please don't be mad at me and Lyle, okay?" I was genuinely puzzled at first, but the moment I caught that familiar scent, everything suddenly made sense. "Moira, what are you doing?" Lyle stormed in and yanked me aside with brute force. "I never said a word when you refused to give Dahlia a protective charm, but now that she's just staying with us for a few days to recover, you can't even tolerate her presence. When did you become so petty-minded?" Dahlia tugged nervously at Lyle's sleeve. "Don't blame Sister Moira, Lyle. This is my fault. I shouldn't have used your wedding quilt. I'm sorry." Lyle pulled Dahlia behind him, glaring at me with fury. "Enough, stop speaking up for her. It's just a tattered quilt from 1,000 years ago. Why can't we use it? Moira, must you be so petty?" "Petty?" I found it laughable and couldn't be bothered to explain. Lyle was no fool. He simply chose to believe Dahlia. This marriage was wrong from the very beginning to the bitter end. "I'm truly exhausted." "You're right, I was being petty. In that case, you can have this bridal chamber and the wedding quilts." I left the courtyard where we got married, went to the kitchen courtyard to have a meal. Truth be told, with my cultivation level, I've long transcended the need for mortal sustenance, yet I couldn't resist culinary pleasures, so I begged Lyle to dine with me every day. He agreed, but after Dahlia appeared, he never shared another meal with me. I steadied my mind and teleported to the kitchen courtyard. Just as I reached the kitchen entrance, a familiar voice reached my ears. "You've all been so kind." Lyle thought steamed egg custard might help settle my nerves and poor appetite. "Would you mind preparing some?" That delicate, wavering voice could only belong to Dahlia. As I approached the kitchen courtyard, I saw a crowd gathered around her. There were kitchen staff, along with many outer and inner court disciples who'd come to gawk. After all these years working in the kitchens, we've never seen the Holy Lord treat anyone with such favor. Lady Dahlia is truly blessed, too. Lady Dahlia's kindness makes her worthy of the Holy Lord's favor, unlike that other one, always looking down her nose at everyone with that insufferable arrogance. What the Holy Lord ever saw in her is beyond me. Honestly, Miss Dahlia is young and beautiful, while the Holy Lord masters supreme magic. They're practically a match made in heaven." Surrounded by the crowd, Dahlia blushed with shyness. "The Holy Lord has indeed been kind to me, but please don't spread rumors." I silently observed the scene unfolding. Countless images flashed through my mind. When I first met Lyle, he was just an ordinary inner sect disciple, yet he managed to appear before me constantly, coincidentally crossing paths everywhere. The undisguised adoration in his eyes became common knowledge throughout the entire Violet Heaven Sanctuary. Later, we married, and I helped him ascend to the throne as the sovereign of the Violet Heaven Sanctuary. After he firmly established his rule, I gradually withdrew from governance. Over these 1,000 years, he'd occasionally surprise me with little gestures, but all that vanished when Dahlia appeared. After years of my absence from leadership, the disciples of the Holy Land seemed to have forgotten my former authority and status, their loyalty now solely devoted to Saint Lyle, whom I once elevated to power. Yet in Lyle's heart, there's no longer any place for me, only his reincarnated white moonlight. Dahlia, once, a guardian voice, descend against Lyle's methods, merely suggesting Dahlia paled in comparison to me. For this, Lyle shattered his legs and banished him From Violet Sky Sanctuary, had I not intervened in time, that guardian would have lost his life. Snapping out of my daze, I turned my gaze back to the bustling kitchen courtyard. With a scornful chuckle, I turned away, my appetite completely gone. Returning to my abode, I retrieved the token of affection Lyle had given me all those years ago. It was a storage ring containing every gift Lyle had bestowed upon me over the past millennium. He once vowed to gather all the world's treasures here for me, promising to make me the happiest woman alive, but now it's clear those were just empty words. I took out the supreme alchemy furnace and tossed the storage ring straight into its flames. The fire's breath licked at me intermittently, casting flickering shadows across my face. The moment Lyle stepped inside, he spotted the storage ring inside the alchemy furnace. His entire body froze in panic. "What are you doing?" He lunged forward to force open the furnace, only to be repelled by a surge of fiery backlash that sent him coughing up blood. Yet Lyle refused to give up. Channeling his magic through swirling hands, he forced the alchemy furnace open. All that remained inside was the storage ring. Reduced to ashes, he stood frozen for several seconds before screaming at me like a madman. "What nonsense is this now? That spatial ring is our love token. It contains every gift I've ever given you." Lyle seized my arm, furious. "What the hell's gotten into you? Must you throw tantrums every damn day? Is this some kind of game to you?" Dahlia just regained her form. Her cultivation foundation is still fragile. "What's wrong with me supporting her? Must you take it out on these things? Frankly, you're being insufferable." His grip tightened. "It shouldn't have affected me. Then why does it hurt so much?" I steadied myself, shook off Lyle with icy detachment. "Just returned from the battlefield. Must have been disoriented when I tossed in the storage ring. As you know, a furnace in operation can't be open midway." Lyle frowned slightly as I mentioned the battlefield, his anger subsiding as if recalling something. "My apologies, that was impulsive of me. Were you injured last time? I'll have medicine prepared for you." A rare look of concern flashed in Lyle's eyes. I averted my gaze, refusing to meet his eyes. The Lyle before me now was the sacred lord of Violet Abyss, Dahlia's white moonlight guardian. Everything except the Lyle who belonged to me. "I'm fine." My aloof demeanor seemed to unsettle Lyle. He grabbed my hand with a guilty expression. "I'm sorry, Moira. I've been neglecting you lately. Didn't even ask about your battlefield missions. Don't worry about these burned items. I'll get you identical replacements soon." "All right." I withdrew my hand without changing expression. How laughable, stealing my defensive artifacts for another woman, completely disregarding my survival. And now putting on this lovesick act. "I won't lie to myself. Even if you replace those things, they'll never be exactly the same." "No need. I haven't eaten yet. If you're truly sorry, why not join me for a meal? I've thought it through. What right do Dahlia and Lyle have to ruin my appetite? I'm going to eat anyway." Lyle breathed a sigh of relief and agreed immediately, as if surprised my demand was so simple. Watching his visibly relaxed expression, I couldn't help but chuckle quietly. But when I returned to the kitchen, I found not just Lyle but also Dahlia sitting at the table. "Moira, perfect timing. Dahlia hasn't eaten either. Let's all have dinner together." I nodded silently, unwilling to argue any further. "Just one last meal together, that's all." No sooner had I sat down than Dahlia eagerly piled food into my bowl. "Sister Moira, I must apologize for our little disagreement earlier. Please don't be angry. This dish is made from century-old lingji mushrooms through 81 meticulous steps. It's extremely nourishing. Do try some, dear sister." As she spoke, Dahlia leaned in from Lyle's blind spot and flashed me a provocative smirk. "Sister Moira, this ancient lingji is so old and green, just like you, dear sister. You really should have extra portions." Dahlia deliberately lowered her voice. I glared coldly at Dahlia and overturned the emerald lingji mushroom on the table. "The 10,000-year emerald lingji is indeed rare. You should eat more yourself, Miss Dahlia, instead of eyeing others' meals every day." "What? Does food from others' plates taste better?" "True enough. As the saying goes, why covet what others have when you've got your own? Isn't that right, Miss Dahlia?" Dahlia's eyes instantly welled up with tears as she looked helplessly at Lyle. "Lyle, I only wanted to mend things between us. What exactly does Sister Moira mean by that?" I sneered, ready to fire off more sarcastic remarks. The next instant, a stinging slap landed across my face. That slap carried formidable magical power. Caught completely off guard, I tasted blood trickling from the corner of my mouth. That stung. Lyle withdrew his hand, face contorted with rage. "What's wrong with you?" Dahlia's reaching out to make peace. "What more do you want?" The metallic taste of blood filled my mouth as I drifted into a daze. "3. I think it's really time for me to leave. You will apologize to Dahlia this instant." Lyle stared at me coldly, his stern tone brooking no argument. Dahlia peeked out from behind Lyle, gazing at me with feigned innocence. Lyle's face flushed with anger as if I'd wounded his pride. He seized my wrist and roared. "Did you hear me? I said apologize." To her, back when Lyle was just an ordinary disciple, the concept of saving face never concerned him. He only developed these habits after I thrust him onto the throne. I shoved Lyle away without holding back. My magic far surpassed Lyle's, sending him stumbling backward, his face flushed crimson, eyes burning with intensified fury, as if furious that I'd publicly humiliated him, ignoring the enraged Lyle. I turned and flew away. I returned to the cave where we'd exchanged vows. Countless memories of us lingered within. There's a wooden hairpin he carved for me with his own hands. I've always treasured it, never daring to wear it, but now I'll never get the chance, because it's destined to perish in flames. All the little decorations we made together in this hall, the couple souvenirs we brought back from our trips to the mortal realm, everything shall turn to ashes. Oh, and that silk quilt, it's soiled beyond keeping. I sat by the brazier, watching each item vanish from this world, my face utterly expressionless. After burning everything, I picked up the memory stone nearby, cast a minor spell, added a message and sent it to Lyle. The message read, "Lyle, I've erased all traces of our past. You're free to be with the one you love without any burdens. It's over between us. Let's not meet again. I no longer wish to remain in the Violet Abyss Sanctuary, so I packed my belongings and headed to the Ascension platform. I'll wait here until the moment of ascension arrives." The moment I reached the Ascension platform, Lyle started bombarding me with messages. "Moira, what's the meaning of this? How dare you burn all those things? Do you have any idea what they meant to us? What's with this attitude? All because of Dahlia. How dare you give me attitude over Dahlia? You're the one who bullied her, and now you're throwing a tantrum. Listen here, Moira, you get your ass back here right now and apologize to Dahlia, and I'll let this slide. Otherwise, don't even think about coming home." This toxic tone, I've heard it countless times before. I can no longer recall how that young man's tender voice sounded when we first fell in love. For him, I once renounced ascension to immortality. I was determined to marry him. Our legendary devotion became the talk of the realm, earning universal admiration. 1,000 years of marriage found me withdrawn from worldly affairs, fading from public view, only occasionally visiting battlefields under concealed identity. Beyond that, I devoted myself wholeheartedly to staying by his side. Perhaps it gave him the wrong impression, as if I had nowhere else to go but remain with him. But he forgot, I was once someone who could touch the threshold of the divine realm. Even now, I still possess the power to ascend to the higher realm. The Ascension platform has stood deserted for 1,000 years. My sudden appearance has drawn countless eyes back to the long-forgotten Ascension platform, having vanished from mortal sight for millennia. None recognized me despite my day-long presence. Lyle didn't bother me either, probably intending to teach me a lesson by giving me the cold shoulder for a few days. After all, that's exactly what he did last time we quarreled over Dahlia. This tactic is second nature to him. By the Ascension platform, the growing crowd brought increasingly louder murmurs. Who is this young maiden? She doesn't look old, yet she's ascending the celestial platform. I know for a fact no one's set foot there in a 1,000 years. No idea. She seems familiar, but I can't place her. Never heard of any sect nurturing such a prodigy. She couldn't have just appeared out of thin air, could she? As the crowd buzzed with speculation, an elder among them recognized me. Wait, isn't that Elder Moira from the Violet Heaven Sanctuary, the elder who vanished a millennium ago? They say she was the greatest Mahayana cultivator of her era. To think she'd attain ascension in just 1,000 years, truly worthy of her title as the supreme prodigy, Elder Moira of the Violet Heaven sect. How come I've never heard of her? You're just too young. A millennium ago, wherever she appeared, all prodigies would pale in comparison. There were even rumors she possessed the power to ascend to the higher realms back then, but chose to remain in this world for the sake of the Violet Heaven sect's sovereign. As my true identity was recognized, news of my Ascension platform appearance spread like wildfire through the cultivation world. The glory from a millennium ago resurfaced, giving the rumor mill an explosive boost. Consequently, the news swiftly reached the Violet Heaven Sanctuary. Dahlia, currently at the Violet Heaven Sanctuary, promptly received the message and contacted me via communication stone. So Sister Moira is ascending now. How convenient. She couldn't have picked a more suspicious timing. Is this some ploy to lure Lyle over? Sister Moira's little scheme has backfired spectacularly. Lyle went into seclusion to focus solely on refining elixirs for me. No matter how much you stir up trouble, he won't even notice, and I'll make sure he never finds out. Dahlia's voice dripped with mockery. But dear Sister Moira, have you considered what you'll do if Lyle doesn't come to the Ascension platform for you, now that your impending ascension has become common knowledge, without Lyle as your stepping stone? Are you actually being forced to ascend, with your level of cultivation? That's utterly laughable. Sister Moira, if you want to embarrass yourself, don't drag our violet sky sanctuary into it. Lyle would be furious if that happened. Mocking laughter rang out without restraint. I cut off the communication with an impassive expression, so that's why Lyle never contacted me. He was in seclusion preparing alchemy for Dahlia. He really does love her, doesn't he? Though I cut off communication. Dahlia refused to give up. Another message came through. Oh, by the way, I forgot to tell you something, Moira. You didn't actually think Lyle liked you, did you? Let me be blunt. Lyle already told me he only chose you because he thought I was dead. It was never about love, Moira. Stop deluding yourself. There was never any love between you two. This time, Dahlia triumphantly cut off the communication. Turns out I was never his priority. It was all lies a millennium ago, and still lies now. I sat at the Ascension platform for 2 days. The crowd around gradually grew noisier. Why hasn't the Ascension happened yet? Could it really be as Violet Sky Sanctuary said, just playing us for fools? Might well be. Who spread that rumor about Moira having the power to ascend a millennium ago? Total nonsense if you ask me. I bet it's exactly like Violet Sky Sanctuary claimed. This whole spectacle is just her way of getting back at their Holy Master. Heard they had a falling out. Damn, what's her problem? The Holy Master's swamped with responsibilities daily. Who's got time for her petty games? Seriously, dragging us into this. What a lunatic, one person spoke up, and instantly the whole crowd chimed in as if they'd rehearsed it. Get lost, get the hell out. With the crowd's fury boiling around me, I was about to leave anyway, couldn't be bothered to argue, just raised my hand and cast a barrier spell, cutting off all outside noise. Yet just before the barrier formed, Dahlia's message came through again. Sister Moira, the disciples of Violet Heaven Sanctuary are furious about your actions by monopolizing the Ascension platform for personal gain. You've stirred public outrage and tarnished our sex reputation. When Lyle emerges from seclusion, what punishment do you think he'll give you? My voice remained eerily calm. Was it you who had the Violet Abyss sect spread those rumors, claiming my ascension was fake just to lure out Lyle? Dahlia's voice came through, feigning innocence yet laced with undisguised scorn. Don't spout nonsense, Sister Moira. I never ordered any rumors to be spread. Everything I said was the truth. Lyle is the sect master. If even he hasn't ascended, what makes a mere elder like you worthy? Surely you don't actually believe you're that remarkable, Sister Moira. Does Dahlia actually believe Lyle ascended to the position of Holy Sovereign through his own merits, with his mediocre talent that can't even touch the threshold of the Great Ascension realm? He'd never have inherited the throne of the Violet Heaven Sanctuary in this lifetime, not without my intervention. Whether my ascension is fact or fiction, you'll learn the truth soon enough. I severed the communication link with icy finality, and nobody like Dahlia wouldn't even have the privilege of laying eyes on me if it weren't for Lyle. Naturally, I couldn't be bothered to exchange more than necessary words with her. What a complete waste of time behind the barrier. I spent another 2 days at the Ascension platform. The noise outside gradually faded. Most of the crowd had dispersed. They mocked me, calling me an attention seeker who'd never achieved celestial ascension. I couldn't be bothered to respond, for the moment is almost upon us. But before the ascension could arrive, I was visited by an unexpected guest, Lyle, to be precise. It was Lyle's doppelganger. His true form remains in seclusion, concocting elixirs for his beloved muse, Dahlia Lynn. With the number of people around the ascension platform drastically reduced, no one remaining even noticed Lyle as he entered, under the influence of my barrier. Everything within the Ascension platform is isolated from the outside world. Moira, have you had enough? Is it really Lyle's doppelganger? As expected, they're saying exactly the same things. You've caused all this trouble just to force me to see you, haven't you? Well, I'm here now. Let's go back immediately. Lyle overestimates himself. Force him to see me, seeing my inaction. Lyle frowned. What do you mean by this? Are you going to keep making a scene? I'm warning you, don't go blabbing about our affairs to everyone. You're so audacious, playing the entire cultivation world for fools. Are you deliberately trying to get my Zishio Holy Land targeted? Are you trying to destroy us? My expression turned cold. When did I ever provoke the entire cultivation world? And when did I ever try to harm the Zishio Holy Land? I've lived in the Lingxiao Holy Land since my master adopted me, as far back as I can remember. After my master passed away, I single-handedly protected the Violet Heavens Holy Land from being devoured by the covetous factions surrounding it. Since then, I've been revered as the first elder of the Violet Heavens Holy Land, holding an unparalleled position. I fought tooth and nail to protect the Violet Heavens Holy Land, not only because it was my master's dying wish, but also because it was his life's work. If I had truly wanted to destroy the Violet Heavens Holy Land, I wouldn't have protected it in the first place. Otherwise, with my capabilities, I would have had countless opportunities to destroy the violet heaven's holy land, Lyle, and I have been married for 1,000 years, yet he still doesn't understand me at all. He's quick to jump to conclusions and label me. Seeing my rebuttal, Lyle's face grew even colder. Am I wrong? No one in the cultivation world has ascended in 1,000 years, even if you are the foremost expert in the Mahayana stage. You shouldn't resort to such grandstanding. Do you think everyone out there is a fool? I'm warning you. While there's still a chance to fix this, come back with me now. Stop throwing a tantrum. We can discuss our issues later. Back home, don't make a scene that the entire cultivation world will know about and ruin the reputation of Zishio Holy Land, Lyle said, reaching out to pull me, but I easily dodged him. Lyle, with your limited perspective, you naturally can't grasp the extent of my abilities. My calm tone made Lyle flush with anger. How dare you? I am the Holy Sovereign, while you're merely an elder. This is outright insubordination. I snapped my gaze toward him. Did I hear that correctly? Lyle's using the status I gave him to push me around. Meeting my gaze, Lyle uncomfortably shifted his eyes away, his tone growing more impatient. All right, you did all this just to get me to show up, didn't you? Stop beating around the bush. Don't worry, I promise you, I can overlook everything that's happened these past few days, including how you treated Dahlia. I sneered, taking 2 steps back. The message was clear. Moira, that's enough. If you insist on staying here and causing trouble instead of coming back with me, don't blame me for taking drastic measures. Lyle snapped sharply. Yes. When I still didn't react, he simply hurled a disc straight at me. My pupils contracted at the sight of that disc. It was the wedding gift I'd given Lyle on our first night together. Since I made no move, the disc successfully trapped me, leaving me unable to move. I wasn't flustered. I just stared blankly at the disc. I never expected that with the turning of time, he would actually return it to me. How ironic, my own magical artifact is being used against me. Lyle, however, didn't notice anything amiss with me. Seeing the disc trap me, a sneer involuntarily crept onto his lips. You're still lying even now. If you truly had the power to ascend to the upper realm, how could I have trapped you so easily? Come back with me obediently. Stop making a spectacle of yourself out here. You've completely disgraced the Violet Cloud Holy Land. Lyle spoke with an edge of impatience. The next second, he was ready to retract the disc, but he quickly realized the disc wasn't responding to his commands. I reached out and retrieved the disc. I watched Lyle's eyes widen in shock, my expression completely unfazed. Lyle's clone raised its hand, preparing to cast another spell. I narrowed my eyes slightly and instantly disrupted his magic. With a flick of my wrist, I trapped him within a disc. You want to inform your main body? Too bad. You won't get the chance. With that, I erased Lyle's clone directly, not giving him a chance to speak. A clone's memories only return to the main body when the clone itself returns, but now, with the clone gone, Lyle won't retain its memories either. I can finally ascend with peace of mind. For the last 2 days that followed, the ascension platform was indeed much quieter, because even the last group of believers had run out of patience within 2 days. So, when the ascension platform cast its light, illuminating the dark night, I was the only one there. I stood on the ascension platform, letting the pure white light wash over me. This was the cleansing ritual before the ascension. I slowly closed my eyes, but I could clearly sense many people gathering around me. In this cultivation world, the art of shrinking the earth into an inch is quite common. Therefore, the moment there was activity on the ascension platform, many people noticed and rushed over. At the same time, my body slowly began to rise, bathed in holy light. Her snow-white robes shimmered with such divine beauty that it stole the breath from countless onlookers. Upon the ascension platform, ethereal music began to resonate. Incomprehensible sigils descended from the heavens as if celebrating my celestial ascension. The assembled cultivators stood transfixed, gazing in silent awe at the spectacle. It was an elder who reacted first, performing a grand bow. Congratulations on your ascension, immortal Moira. The others then came to their senses, cupping their fists in unison. Congratulations on your ascension, immortal Moira. My body continued to ascend. Each ascension from the ascension platform sends ripples throughout the entire cultivation world. That's because the ascension platform always activates at night. Its light is bright as day every single time. Now, almost everyone in the cultivation world can see me, on the verge of ascension. But I couldn't care less about any of it. All I care about is what ascension gift my bestie has prepared for me. A slight smile touched my lips at the thought of her. We'll be able to meet very soon. Before long, golden light showered down from the heavens. 5. A broader smile spread across my face, because that golden light was the final step. As the golden light faded, I, too, vanished from the cultivation world, truly and completely arriving in the upper realm. My best friend had prepared a grand welcoming ceremony for me. It's almost laughable. This welcoming ceremony is even grander than my Wedding was 1,000 years ago. Back then, Lyle told me, Moira, let's just keep the wedding simple. The most important thing is for us to be together. I remained silent. There was no grand wedding spectacle, and I've rarely made public appearances over the past millennium, which is why fewer and fewer people outside know who I am. But now, my gaze swept over the crowd above, celebrating my victory. I suppose these people will all remember me now. Indeed, some people are just different from others. In the days that followed, my best friend and I trained relentlessly in the upper realm, occasionally pulling out the realm-traversing mirror to check on the situation below. Even though I had ascended, the violet cloud Holy Land could not fall, at least not anytime soon. Suddenly, today, there was a change at the violet cloud Holy Land. Lyle, you're out. Lyle, you must be exhausted. You've been in seclusion for so long. I'll have the kitchen prepare a meal for you right away. Dahlia smiled sweetly. Lyle looked quite pleased. Dahlia's the only one who cares about me, not like Moira. I'm out of seclusion, and she's nowhere to be found. Who knows where she's off gallivanting all day and night. Dahlia managed a stiff, forced smile, but Lyle, consumed by his rage, completely missed Dahlia's discomfort and continued his tirade. When she gets back, I'm going to make sure she understands who's in charge of this violet cloud sacred land. She has absolutely no discipline, day in and day out. Haven't I indulged her enough? All she ever does is throw tantrums at me. Dahlia, with a delicate expression, began. Lyle, don't blame Sister Moira, she just cares about you too much. Lyle scoffed, then very naturally put his arm around Dahlia's shoulders. Ignore her, she can go wherever she pleases. Have the kitchen staff bring our food here. The best friends watching through the realm mirror were dumbfounded. No, what's wrong with him? Moira, it's a good thing you ascended. Otherwise, with a scumbag like him, he's truly not worthy of you. Her best friend's disdain was palpable. I'm actually looking forward to seeing his face when he finds out you've ascended. I cast a fleeting glance at the embracing couple in the world-connecting mirror, my expression utterly unperturbed. Lyle is nothing more than the holy lord of the violet heaven sanctuary to me now. My husband, he's not worthy soon. The food arrived. The two kitchen staff who delivered the meal glanced at the unusually intimate pair, raised an eyebrow, and quickly retreated. After they left, the two began to whisper, see, Miss Dahlia and the Holy Lord clearly have a special connection. No wonder the Madam, no, Elder Moira, is ascending to the upper realm. With a man like that, who wouldn't want to ascend? Wait, didn't you used to hope Miss Dahlia and the Holy Lord would get together? Oh, that was just talk. Everyone knows the Holy Lord dotes on her, so could I really say otherwise, honestly? Everyone knows Miss Dahlia's power isn't even 1% of Elder Moira's. I have no idea what the Holy Lord is thinking. Exactly, with Elder Moira's power, if the Holy Lord and she were a loving couple, who knows, she might even help him ascend to the upper realm. TSK, I really can't agree with our Holy Lord's vision. The two walked along, whispering to each other. Not far away, Lyle, who had just noticed a dish was missing and was about to call out to them, overheard their entire conversation. What were you two just talking about? Who ascended? The two exchanged a glance, then quickly knelt down. It's Elder Moira. Lyle froze in place. He looked as if he'd been struck by lightning. How could this be? Lyle mumbled, completely dazed. When did this happen? Why didn't I know? Why? His eyes suddenly reddened. He grabbed the nearest person by the neck, his face contorted in a grimace. Tell me, when did she ascend? A month ago. The man was startled, stammering as he spoke. Why didn't anyone tell me? Why, she's my wife, she ascended. Why did no one tell me? Are you all dead? His grip tightened gradually. The other person, startled, seeing their companion's eyes rolling wildly, quickly blurted out, it was Miss Dahlia. It was Miss Dahlia who told us not to say anything. At first, Miss Dahlia said that Elder Moira's ascension was a sham, a self-staged act. There was no need to inform the Holy Master. Later, when Elder Moira truly ascended, Miss Dahlia then said that the Holy Master's meditation should not be disturbed. We wouldn't dare take matters into our own hands, especially with you and Miss Dahlia. You two. Lyle let go. Collapsing, he sank to his knees, powerless, and looked up at the deep blue sky, roaring, grieving. Moira, why did you leave me? After that, he was drunk all day, calling out my name, crying as he called out. He never practiced magic again. Nor did he spend every day with his beloved white moonlight anymore. This went on for 3 days. Dahlia couldn't take it anymore and showed up at his door. Lyle, you still have the Zishio Holy Land and me behind you. You have to pull yourself together. Honestly, Sister Moira, she's something else. You two have been married for 1,000 years, and she just ascends without a second thought for your feelings. Dahlia looked utterly indignant on Lyle's behalf, but even through the inter-realm mirror, I could see the jealousy in Dahlia's eyes. I scoffed, my eyes filled with utter disdain for Dahlia, as I said, Before, without Lyle, Dahlia wouldn't even have had the chance to meet me. It just goes to show how incompetent she is. Not only is she incompetent, but she doesn't even try. All she ever thinks about is taking shortcuts by relying on men. This is as far as she'll ever get. Lyle, who had been drowning his sorrows in the all-world's mirror, suddenly stopped when he heard Dahlia speak. He stared at Dahlia, unblinking. 6. His gaze made her feel a little uneasy. Why didn't you tell me? Lyle's voice was hoarse with emotion. Dahlia paused, then smiled gently. Lyle, I only want what's best for you. Before she could finish, Lyle struck her across the face with brutal force. This is all your fault. She wouldn't have left me if not for you. She's been by my side for 1,000 years. Damn you, damn you. Lyle's hands were clamped around Dahlia's throat, his eyes bloodshot with hatred. If it weren't for me trying to concoct some damn elixir for you, how could I not have known about her? Ascension, if I could just see her, plead with her again, she'd surely soften. This is all your fault. This is all because of you. Lyle, as if possessed, furiously beat Dahlia. Dahlia, having only recently been resurrected, was no match for Lyle and could only flee in disarray. No one around dared to intervene, leaving Lyle free to beat Dahlia until she was covered in injuries. Lyle seemed to be seeing red, showing absolutely no mercy. Each blow was more brutal than the last. Before long, Dahlia collapsed to the ground. Life was beginning to fade. Through the mirror, I saw everything unfold. My best friend saw it all clearly too, and couldn't help but scoff. Now that he's gone, you miss him. Ugh, how shameless. I thought my best friend was absolutely right. Before I could react, my best friend shut down the boundary mirror. Enough, stop watching. It's just upsetting. Purple Heaven Sanctuary isn't your master's domain anymore. Why bother whether it survives? You've already ascended to the upper realm. I could only smile wryly and let it go, let the matters of the underworld scatter with the wind. But to my surprise, Lyle soon succeeded in summoning my consciousness to the underworld through sacred rites. A wisp of my soul drifted down to the mortal realm, carrying my awareness. The moment Lyle saw me, his face lit up with joy. You actually came. His face lit up with unconcealed joy. But the next moment, his lips quivered as he looked at me with wounded eyes. You have no idea how much I missed you. Why did you abandon me like that? I stared at him coldly, no feedback whatsoever. Lyle was no longer as arrogant as before. Even without any response from me, he didn't get angry. Instead, he looked at me with deep affection. Moira, I'm truly happy to see you again. I stared at him coldly. Have you forgotten your first love? You two were the loving couple. So please stop pretending you're so fond of me. After all, you only married me because Dahlia died. Didn't you? A flicker of ruthlessness crossed Lyle's eyes at her words. Did that bitch Dahlia tell you? In an instant, Lyle's eyes welled up, a look of helplessness on his face. Moira, whatever my reasons were for marrying you back then, I truly love you now. And that day in the kitchen courtyard, there was a sound recording stone that captured your conversation. I heard it. Dahlia provoked you first. It was my fault. I wronged you. And I know that now. Please, can you forgive me? I chuckled softly. It's been so long. Whether I forgive or not doesn't really matter anymore. We're practically living in two different worlds now. I'm the one who erased that clone of yours. I don't want you interfering with my ascension. Is my stance still not clear enough? Lyle looked at me, his face scrunched up in a pitiful, aggrieved expression. It was just a clone, easily erased. But you can't just abandon me. I can train hard and strive to ascend to the upper realm. By then, no one will ever be able to separate us again. Lyle's voice grew more resolute with each word. I, however, couldn't help but burst out laughing. Did I hear that right? You said you're going to train hard and ascend to the upper realm. Lyle, has years of being the Holy Lord gone to your head? Have you forgotten that with your talent, you can't even touch the edge of the Mahayana stage, and you still dream of ascending to the upper realm? Lyle's face instantly went pale, his lips began to tremble slightly. The person seemed utterly devastated. A look of utter defeat was etched on their face. I lost all interest in continuing our conversation, turned, and returned to the upper realm. After that, I never again concerned myself with matters of the lower realm. As my power and status in the upper realm grew, I became unrivaled for a time. Everything that happened in the lower realm, and the people I met there, gradually began to fade from memory. Years later, the name Lyle reappeared in my world. Only then did I begin to understand. At that time, I was invited down to the lower realm by the new Holy Lord of the Violet Cloud Holy Land. He said Lyle had pushed himself too hard in his cultivation, gone astray, and ultimately perished. That's why a new Holy Lord had to be appointed. The new Holy Lord asked me to descend to the mortal realm to keep the unruly in check. I didn't mind at all, especially since I'm also from the Violet Cloud Holy Land 7, after all. This used to be my master's territory. As for the news of Lyle's demise due to Cultivation deviation, it didn't affect me at all nowadays. That name means nothing more than just a name to me. Years have passed, and I've long since built a new life and found a new partner. All that's past is but a fleeting cloud. Story 2, to my surprise, Tessa seemed like a completely different person when she returned from the school clinic. She was quiet and somber, ignoring everyone's greetings. I watched her as she scanned the entire classroom with a look of melancholy and resolve. Then she asked the teacher for leave and never returned to school later. A classmate whose family owns a supermarket mentioned that Tessa had bought a large amount of food and household supplies from their store. Tessa had moved and didn't tell anyone. I only knew because I saw her while watering plants on the balcony, directing some workers as they moved furniture out of the long empty house across from mine. The buildings were close enough that I recognized her familiar face immediately. I couldn't understand why she was gesturing so intensely about the size and arrangement of things. The first half of the senior year was almost over, and the school had announced a winter break in 3 days. I couldn't fathom why Tessa would bother with renovations at such a time, so I returned to my room to continue working on my papers. We weren't close. In 3 years of high school, we'd probably spoken less than 10 sentences to each other. She was usually quiet and aloof, hard to approach. I was just an average student, neither excelling nor failing, and we didn't really run in the same circles. Ding, I received an unread Instagram message. I checked my phone. It was from the class group chat. 2 messages caught my eye. Teacher Valerie, at Tessa, answer my call immediately. Teacher Valerie, at everyone, does anyone have contact with Tessa? She's missing. Has anyone seen her recently? Missing. I walked to the balcony to observe the situation across the building. It seemed she was completely oblivious to the chaos about her in the group chat. Tessa was working with the laborers, stacking bricks as if intending to seal up the windows. I wasn't sure if I should interfere, but sealing windows could suggest something shady like growing marijuana or storing ashes. I decided it was worth figuring out whether she was breaking the law or just up to something creepy, so I sent Tessa a friend request, Morse code, translating to need SOS. Tessa glanced at her phone and ignored me. I sent another friend request, Hyanjiang International, Building 3, Apartment 1801. I accurately reported her address. The friend request was accepted. How did you know? Looking out the window, Tessa and I looked at each other from across the space. She then messaged me, don't meddle in what doesn't concern you. Keep my secret, and I'll save your life. Stock up on supplies. And don't go outside under any circumstances in a week. Tessa ignored my further questions and continued with the window bricking. When I woke up the next day, Tessa's apartment across was sealed tight, except for a watermelon-sized gap left directly opposite my balcony. It seemed Tessa's actions were no joke. I continued going to school as usual, keeping Tessa's whereabouts a secret. After school, recalling Tessa's advice, I went to the largest supermarket nearby, under the guise of stocking up for New Year's. I purchased essentials like rice, noodles, oil, tea, bottled water, tissues, and toiletries. I also picked up some common medications from a drugstore near my complex. My savings weren't substantial. My parents had passed away early, and my uncle only sent me a monthly allowance of 1,000 yuan. Fortunately, the 150 square meter flat left by my parents was mine, and it had enough space to set aside a bedroom as a storage room if needed. I watched as my bank balance dwindled from 60.98 yuan to 120 yuan with each purchase. That should be enough, I hoped, although I wasn't sure what to expect. There was still no word from Tessa over the next few days. Time flew by, and before I knew it, it was the evening of the 6th day. I reminded myself that no matter what, I shouldn't go outside after tomorrow. As I looked at the fully stocked storage room, I lay down to sleep with mixed feelings too. In a drowsy state, I was awakened by a scream. I picked up my phone to check the time, and it was 4:20 a.m. and dawn was just breaking. The sky a blend of light and darkness, as if heralding the onset of a new world. The screams gradually subsided. I went to the balcony and looked down, following the direction of the noise. From the 18th floor, everything below was obscured by a hazy gray. No longer feeling sleepy, I decided to freshen up in the bathroom and check the news online. One moment I was brushing my teeth while scrolling through my phone on the toilet, and the next, I opened Facebook to find that it was blowing up with trending topics. Since around 1 a.m., there had been a continuous stream of distress messages. People in the neighborhood are being bitten, and the rescuers are bitten too. A maniac tearing and swallowing human flesh appeared in a bar. Police fatally shot several insane citizens who were randomly attacking people at night. A barbecue restaurant owner's stomach was not empty, yet he stood up to attack others. The information was widespread. From major cities to small towns, all had fallen. Trending keyword, zombies. Cold sweat trickled down my back. The screams from The video playing on my phone mixed with the beating of my heart echoed in the cramped bathroom, assaulting my ears and pushing my psychological limits. What to do? What should I do? After hastily finishing up in the bathroom, I double-checked the doors and windows to make sure they were securely locked and even ran to the spare bedroom to check the supplies I had prepared a few days ago. These were clearly not enough. I regretted not taking Tessa's advice more seriously. I should have found a way to borrow some money to stock up more supplies. Thinking of Tessa, she must have known something about this. In a panic, I tried to send her a voice message, but the more hurried I became, the more mistakes I made. My hands trembled uncontrollably, and I accidentally dropped my phone. The screen cracked, but fortunately, the phone was not damaged. Doo-doo-doo-doo. Tessa didn't answer, nor did she decline. She might still be sleeping. Sound turned off. I sat down by the door, leaning against the wall with my phone in hand. My mind went blank. A text message popped up on my phone. City government notice. A widespread violent incident has occurred in the city. Residents are advised to stay at home and isolate. If in danger, please call the emergency number XXXXXXXXX. After a while, dawn began to break. I received a message from Tessa. Don't turn on the lights, pretend no one is home, and stop contacting anyone. Do not open the door if someone knocks. It's like the apocalypse from the movies had become reality. 3. In the following days, the residents' group chat was bombarded with panic-inducing messages. Teachers and schools advised students not to go out, and the TV signal was interrupted. Videos of the national military's clearing operations and inspiring statements circulated online. Initially, everyone encouraged each other, hopeful that the disaster would pass quickly. However, as supplies dwindled, many risked venturing out to search for food and water. Most did not return safely. Initially, the residents' group chat urged well-supplied families to share some food in the corridors to help those without reserves. Gradually, messages in the group became scarce. Later, people began to plead for help, saying their supplies were looted by neighbors, and they were injured and unable to receive medical treatment if they resisted. Every day, I kept Tessa updated, relying on my contact with her for a sense of security amidst the disaster. Sometimes she wouldn't reply to my messages. Other times she just sent a I knew we weren't close, whether she had initially reached out of pity or as a term of exchange. Even if she didn't want to be involved with me, she was the only person I could trust now. As the zombie outbreak had been ongoing for over half a month, I had been economizing, eating only one meal a day. Fortunately, the water supply hadn't been cut off, and the electrical and network systems were still functioning. I looked at the 4 5-liter jugs of purified water in the corner of the spare room. If the water supply were cut off one day, these would be my last lifeline. Thinking this, I hurriedly filled every available container with tap water, including plugging the bathtub and filling it up. Knock, knock, knock. Someone was at the door. I tensed up and dared not make a sound. Tiptoeing to the door, I peered through the peephole and saw 2 burly middle-aged men with thick beards outside. This reminded me of recent messages in the residents' group chat about looting. I prayed fervently for them to leave quickly. Please, just assume no one's home and go away. The 2 outside knocked for a long time, and, receiving no response, they attempted to break in. Click, clang, bang. I had never heard my heartbeat and my swallowing so clearly before. Cold sweat trickled down my forehead to my eyelashes, my lips trembled, my chest heaved, and my breathing hastened. I felt dizzy amidst the ringing in my ears. I was barely able to stand, swaying, and realized that if I fainted now, those outside would definitely know someone was inside. Grinding my teeth, I leaned against the door, trying to stay conscious. Damn it, %, and asterisk, and let's try a %, let's go. I could vaguely hear the cursing outside, mixed with the sounds of packing up tools. Their voices gradually faded. Finally, I couldn't hold on any longer and collapsed to the floor. I cried silently, tears streaming down my face. That was close. I had just barely escaped death. When I first inherited this apartment, living alone prompted me to install a high-grade explosion proof security door early on. It truly saved my life this time. I couldn't imagine what would have happened if those 2 imposing men had actually broken in and found me, a minor living alone. I lay on the floor, watching the ceiling shift from warm white to dark gray. I lay there the entire afternoon. My phone lit up. Notification from the City Public Security Bureau. All residents, please report the number of survivors, their health status, remaining supplies, and detailed residential addresses as a household unit. Send this information to XXXXXX. A representative will contact you, and a rescue helicopter will transport the survivors to a safe protection area. I no longer had to live in fear. The government was finally coming to rescue me. I picked up my phone and began to draft the message. Then, an Instagram notification popped up, making me halt. Do not reply, do not believe. Tessa's message plunged me into a dilemma. On one side was Tessa, who had saved me earlier. On the other A safe haven. Having just faced a life-threatening situation, I was desperate to survive. I just had 2 men trying to break into my house. They almost got in. It's too dangerous here. I want to go somewhere safe, somewhere with protection. Besides, I don't have much supplies left. I can't last much longer. I can't give up this chance at survival. 2 minutes later, Tessa replied, after a brief internal struggle. I abandoned the idea of heading to the safety zone. Trust me, staying is the only way to survive. I wouldn't lie to you. For true to form, the government acted quickly. Within a couple of days, countless helicopters came and went, landing on the rooftop of my apartment complex to pick up people. The quiet residence group chat became lively again, everyone's tone light and hopeful for a new life. I watched the helicopters circling the sky, envying those free birds. I hadn't left the house in over 2 months. I wondered if staying was the right decision. Days passed in a blur. I lay in bed, too lazy to wash my hair or exercise. Sometimes I thought it might have been better to have been bitten by zombies at the beginning than to be trapped here now, alive but without purpose. Really, there was no point. Happy New Year. It was a message from Tessa. It turned out it was already the new year. I had never imagined welcoming my 18th year in this way. I felt my cheeks grow hot and realized I was crying only when I touched them. Happy New Year to you too. Water and electricity systems have collapsed. What am I supposed to do now? Tessa's words were a bolt from the blue, adding insult to injury. With the utilities gone, it meant I had to start using my limited supply of bottled water. From now on, we will need to recycle water for everything except drinking. Should the water in the bathtub be used for drinking or flushing the toilet? How will I contact Tessa in the future? Isn't this pushing me into a corner? I'm starting to deeply regret not going to the safe zone, and I even blame Tessa a bit for holding me back. Bring all the flower pots from the balcony inside, and place a blue one on the small table on the balcony. Switch it to a red one tomorrow. Change it every day, and I'll know you're still safe. If you run out of supplies, put both pots out, and I'll come to rescue you. Why don't you come rescue me now? It would be nice to have some company. I haven't figured out yet how to get past the zombie horde to find you, and just the 2 of us can't carry all your remaining supplies. Use up your own supplies first and try to conserve as much as possible. Hang in there until I figure out a way to get you. Okay, it's just like Tessa to think of this method. I thought the small hole she left when sealing the windows was just for ventilation. Now I think she must have planned everything out from the beginning. That small hole is perfectly positioned to see my balcony, and the brightly colored flower pots make them distinguishable from a distance. Fortunately, it's just the cold, dry winter of the south, with no snow. Otherwise, if the snow covered the flower pots, it would be hard to tell them apart. 5. No, I only dare to drink 1 glass of water a day. It's barely enough to stay alive, but I feel terribly shriveled up. After all, the food I have consists of dry biscuits and instant noodles, which contain no moisture. I can't help it. I'm really running low on water. If I could do it over, I would fill the other bedroom with water. I'd drink to my heart's content every day. It's been almost 2 months since I last contacted Tessa. My phone automatically shut down on the 3rd day of the power outage. Before the power went out, I discovered something that kept me thinking for the next month. After the municipal rescue helicopters gradually evacuated the survivors, there were no more updates in our group chats or online. It's as if everyone just disappeared. The messages on Facebook were all old, talking about preparations to board. Nobody has spoken in the residence group since the helicopters came that day. Could it be that the power is out even in the safe zones? Are they doing okay over there? I checked my supplies, and there's not much food left. There's only a little water left in the bucket. This water can last at most 3 days, and that's all the time I can hold out. I wonder if Tessa has found a way to rescue me. Honestly, I have some doubts about whether she would really risk her life to save me. The weather is warming up, and the April sunlight is bright and harsh. My body feels warm, but my nose is suffering. The rising temperatures cause the corpses and zombies outside to ferment and rot. Even living on the 18th floor, I can still smell the stench. Even tightly closed windows can't block it. I've placed both the blue and red flower pots on the small table on the balcony, waiting for Tessa's rescue. If she doesn't come in 3 days before my water runs out, then I'm really done for. The first day, no one came. The second day, no one came. The 3rd day, no one came. I've run out of water. The 4th day, no one came. On the 5th day, there was a knocking sound. I dragged my weary body, weakly running to the door. Through the peephole, I saw a figure covered in a protective suit and mud. Beneath the dirty mask, I could vaguely see Tessa's fair cheeks and bright eyes. My savior. I eagerly unlocked the door, opened it, and threw myself at Tessa, wanting to embrace her. Tessa jumped back, avoiding my hug. It was then I smelled a foul odor coming From her protective suit, Tessa scolded me to calm down, then threw a package at my feet. "Put this on, and follow me." 6. The sky is a grayish-white, a light drizzle seems to want to wash away all traces of the apocalypse, yet it only makes the streets seem more desolate. Tessa brought me a raincoat smeared with zombie rot. According to her, the smell would help mask my presence as we move through the zombie-infested areas. In recent days, I've thought of countless ways to pick me up, and in the end, we had to disguise our human scent with a mixture of clothes and rotting meat. She succeeded. The zombies in the neighborhood didn't notice us. Tessa and I carefully mimicked the movements of the zombies, pacing toward the entrance of her apartment building. She lives on the 18th floor with me. Coming down from my place was relatively easy, but climbing back up to the 18th floor was a significant challenge. I hadn't had water for 2 days because we had none, and I didn't dare eat any food either. Weak and fighting my survival instincts, I walked up step by step. Gradually, my steps became heavier, and Tessa had to slow down to wait for me. Bang, bang, crash. Sounds of violent impacts on the doorframe came from below. My ears perked up, and I looked at Tessa in panic. She gestured for silence, and we stood quietly in the hallway, trying to pinpoint the source of the noises. There were sounds of impacts, zombie growls from their throats, and the thud of bodies hitting the walls. These sounds merged together, and I saw Tessa's raincoat swinging widely as she breathed deeply. Almost at the same moment our eyes met, she reached out her hand to me, and I took it. Then we ran upwards at full speed. Tessa's hand was warm and strong, her strength urging me not to stop. This was the first time I faced the oppression of zombies directly. Why did the zombies suddenly realize to chase after us? I wasn't sure and didn't understand. Maybe the rain had washed away the scent of the rotting meat. It felt like we ran for a century, my throat painfully scorched as if burned by fire. The tearing sensation in my lungs made me cough violently. The more I tried to stop, the more I retched. My eyes bulged as if they were about to pop out. We couldn't stop. It was so painful. The noise from below grew more chaotic and closer. Through the gaps in the escalator, I could vaguely see countless distorted figures. I was out of consciousness. My lower body mechanically lifted and stepped as Tessa led, until she paused on a step, and I still instinctively moved left, ready to continue climbing. She yanked me over and pulled me out of the stairwell. Then she locked the door behind us. At that moment, my brain finally reacted a little, realizing we had reached the 18th floor. Tessa quickly opened the door to 1801, pushed me inside, and then slammed the door shut. I fell to my knees and then collapsed onto the floor. A heaving sound came from my mouth, not quite laughing, not quite crying. Tessa, confused, helped me off with the filthy raincoat and then took a wet towel to wipe my face. She carefully packed the 2 raincoats, placed them in a plastic bag, and stored them in a metal toolbox isolated from the filth. The smell faded significantly. Tessa took off her shirt in front of me, then hesitated before saying, "You need to take off your clothes. It's dangerous." She was right. The decaying flesh of the zombies had gotten on some of my clothes, and even if it hadn't, it wasn't worth the risk. If the bacteria contacted a wound or got into our mouths or eyes, we might also turn. It's better to be cautious. Lying on the floor, I clumsily stripped off my clothes. Tessa knelt in front of me to help unbutton my shirt, worried I might hurt myself or dislodge something still on me. At first, I felt a bit embarrassed, but then I thought, given the circumstances, why be shy? I let her help as I caught my breath. With our clothes off, Tessa and I were as bare as 2 little chicks. In the bathroom, Tessa instructed me to wash my hands first, then use a wet wipe for my face. She warned not to let the contaminated water touch any private areas, to wash thoroughly but not scrub the skin raw. Tessa's bathroom had a similar layout to mine. The bathroom was quite large, but Tessa had placed many plastic buckets in there, all filled with water. This water was for Tessa to wash and clean herself with. "I'm so thirsty, can I drink some water?" "Hold on, wash up first. Don't bring germs into the other rooms." 7. I felt like a camel lost in the desert, my humps all shriveled up, greedily excited at the sight of water as I was on the brink of collapse. Tessa had stored supplies in every bedroom. The master bedroom was filled with boxes of bottled water. I took the cup of water Tessa handed me and drank it in one gulp, then another, and another, one cup after another. The sense of security from the overflowing supplies made me incredibly tired, and the tension I had been holding inside finally eased. When I returned the cup to Tessa, my eyelids suddenly felt heavy, and then everything around me turned pitch black. When I woke up again, I found myself lying on a not-so-soft small bed. I remembered that I had arrived at Tessa's house, and when I got up and looked around, I saw her sleeping not far diagonally across from me. She had made a makeshift bed out of several boxes, covered with a down jacket, and just crashed there. My bed was in the south side of the living room, with the balcony right behind me, the hole the size of a watermelon that was left when the balcony was sealed was now the only source of light in the room due to the moonlight, the dim light cast on the floor, reflecting Tessa's face, serene yet distant. Tessa. I wanted her to come over to the bed. Tessa probably hadn't considered anyone else moving in when she bought this single bed. The single bed was about 3 meters wide. Tessa and I are both quite slim. Squeezing together shouldn't be a problem, maybe in the future, combining the boxes could even make a double bed. Tessa opened her sleepy eyes and said, "Awake." Then she walked back to her bedroom on her own. After a while, she came out with a cup of water and 3 egg yolk pies. "Have something to eat first. Why did you think of moving across from my house in the first place?" As I hastily ate the pastries, I chatted with Tessa. After a pause, Tessa sat on the edge of the bed and began to tell her story. "I've actually died once before, you know. This isn't my first encounter with zombies. I was reborn after I collapsed on the sports field. I didn't know this was your neighborhood, but my place was too small, on the 2nd floor, and not safe enough, so I rented this house. My parents divorced and remarried others. They don't care about me much or give me any money, so I took out a high-interest loan. The lenders saw that I was a student and were reluctant to lend to me. I mortgaged the house, promising them I'd pay back in half a month, and they finally lent me 20,000 yuan. When the zombie outbreak happened, who would care about debts at the end of the world? I had no worries. I rented this house at a high price for just 1 month. It was just a coincidence that I rented across from your house. Rebirth. This was even more bizarre than a zombie outbreak, but the outbreak really happened, and Tessa indeed took measures. I had no choice but to believe for now. Did you know about the zombie outbreak and try to tell the government? Maybe they would have done something in advance to prevent this tragedy. Tessa looked at me as if I were a fool. Would they believe me if I told them? They'd probably lock me up in a psychiatric hospital. That's true. After saying this, I suddenly remembered the previous government rescue efforts. Tessa had stopped me from seeking help. Surely she knew something. It seems like you really dislike the government. Not at all. On the contrary. The mayor is a good person. 8. At the onset of the zombie outbreak, the government collaborated with the local armed forces to conduct cleanup operations. The mayor was already planning to retire, but in such a situation, he stepped up without hesitation, struggling at the front line. All public officials, holding steadfast to their resolve to protect the citizens, continually fought against the inhumane hordes of zombies, yet they could not withstand the relentless surge of zombies. As the armed forces fell, the clearing operations failed. Tessa narrated these events to me in a calm, matter-of-fact manner, as if she hadn't experienced them firsthand. "The mayor, you mean the one who came to our school to speak when we were in sophomore year?" "Yes." "Do you know what happened after that?" "What happened? Just like you initially thought. I chose to believe in rescue when despair hit me while hiding in my small house. It was only when I reached the rescue base that I realized everything was far from what I imagined." The leader giving speeches on the platform wasn't the mayor I had seen before. Those armed men were terrorists. They had hijacked the government buildings and taken over the administrative command of the entire district. Those helicopters, supposedly for rescuing people, were actually plundering remaining resources and capturing people for labor. Men were forced to build walls and underground bunkers. Those who disobeyed were brutally beaten until they bled and broke bones. Women, they locked up women and children, subjected them to abuse and humiliation, and the elderly were buried alive. Tessa's voice trembled as she reached this point, pausing for a few minutes before continuing. "In the dungeon, I listened to the women's screams and the evil laughter of the tormentors, echoing like the death knell of hell. Every day, women were dragged out. They cried and begged for mercy, kneeling and kowtowing to those villains, their blood staining the ground. Yet they were still taken away. Almost none of the women taken out came back. They probably suffocated and were disposed of. One day, they took an interest in me. I knew pleading was useless, so I quietly followed them out. As we passed a man standing guard with a gun, I rushed towards him, and during the scuffle, the gun went off. When I woke up, I found myself in the playground. Having said all this, Tessa was in tears. Gradually, her sobs grew louder, her lips quivering before she burst into crying. Tessa screamed, clutching her hair as if trying to pull the nightmarish memories out of her brain. I held her tightly, unable to comfort her with words. I knew that such experiences were as terrifying to her as a nightmare in the abyss. That night, on a single bed, 2 frail girls huddled close together. They spoke no more. Only the gods could hear the prayers in their hearts. 9. Tessa wasn't good at cooking, so the supplies she bought were mostly related to instant food. The windows of the 2nd bedroom were sealed. I couldn't see what was inside. I had thought the hole left when Tessa sealed the balcony was for me. But now I realized it was the only source of light. Tessa told me that when she arranged the supplies, she did so according to their shelf life. The items in the front were foods expiring in 1 to 3 years, while those at the back were mostly emergency rations like compressed biscuits, which could be stored for over a decade. Looking at the supplies filling 3 bedrooms, I marveled again at how much Tessa could buy. 2 bedrooms were filled with barrels of water, and 1 bedroom was entirely stocked with carbohydrates, the kind of staple that staves off hunger. These supplies, barring any accidents, could last us 3 to 5 years. Tessa proudly showed me her foresight. How long do you think the zombies will last? Zombies will decay. Those rotten flesh pieces on the raincoat when I picked you up were from zombies. I almost got caught collecting those pieces. That was close. Thank you, really, thank you for saving me. Once the zombie crisis is over, let's hide far away. Leave the city. Tessa feared encountering those terrorists again, even if the future held no more cannibalistic threats. With no government control, the city's safety could not be assured. The best course of action would be to leave while it was relatively safe. Escape from this place as soon as you can. Tessa and I have been taking care of each other and surviving in our little corner of the world, filled with hope for the future. It's lonely being alone, spending days lying in bed daydreaming. With the 2 of us, the house became lively. Tessa would tell me about her covert competitions with other top students in her class to be number 1. I shared with her about my high school crush, the most popular guy at school. She argued that he wasn't good in studies at all and wondered why I liked him. I teased her for being a nerd, saying that the thrill of young love couldn't even compete with her focus on grades. Unable to win the argument, Tessa gave me a glare and muttered that if she were to have a crush, it would be on someone who was good at studying. A playful spring passed by. The summer was just halfway through when Tessa fell ill. Initially, the symptoms were not obvious. Tessa just had a reduced appetite but would still eat if she felt very hungry. Later, she became weak and tired, and even started to have bloody stools. As time passed, she became pale and frail, and her weight dropped rapidly. Both Tessa and I became alert, and we started doing daily exercises to boost our immunity. Tessa said she never had health issues before, and based on the current symptoms, we couldn't determine what was wrong. Then one day, while eating a biscuit, Tessa's tooth fell out. A nameless oppression filled the room as Tessa stared blankly at her tooth. She didn't speak for a long time, went to the bathroom to rinse her mouth, and then collapsed on the bed. That night, Tessa curled up in my arms. Her body temperature was very low, contrasting sharply with the hot summer. No moonlight shone through. Dark clouds covered the city, hiding the stars. She spoke of her dreams to study abroad after graduation, to visit the maple forest where the protagonists in a Korean drama declared their love. She wanted to be a public prosecutor, to fight for more rights for the people. She talked about how difficult studying for the college entrance exam was during her senior year, and how she wanted to learn a musical instrument when she had more free time. She thought skateboarding was cool. She regretted not adopting a cat. Then she fell asleep. Tessa became increasingly silent. She always lay in bed, gazing at the sky through the opening. She longed for freedom, but now even a trip to the bathroom required a lot of her energy. I knew this couldn't continue. After a brief discussion with Tessa, I decided to take a risk and go out to a pharmacy to see if there was any medicine suitable for her. Even though we didn't know what disease Tessa had, the medicine boxes in the pharmacy would surely list what symptoms they treated. Hopefully, picking some of those medicines could be a stroke of luck. Maybe they could just cure her illness. Without delay, I put on a raincoat. When I opened the iron box, the stench almost made me pass out. After quickly getting ready, I sealed the remaining garment and returned it to the iron box. At the door, I looked back at Tessa, and she was also looking at me. We both understood that if something went wrong this time out, it wouldn't just be me who might die. Without anyone to take care of her, Tessa wouldn't last long in this resource-filled house either. She told me to be careful. I nodded heavily and opened the door. The journey was not as dangerous as I imagined, with fewer zombies and their movements slower than before. There were many zombies on the ground, probably fallen due to their decaying bodies, no longer able to move due to bacteria and microorganisms consuming them. I entered a damaged pharmacy. Most of the counters were overturned, and the scattered medicine boxes mixed with dirty blood made it difficult to read the labels. After barely making out the words, I found several boxes of medicine for anemia, appetite loss, and osteoporosis. Without a specific target, I grabbed anything that seemed relevant. It took me half a day to. I returned to Tessa's house carrying a whole bag of medicines. Tessa sighed with relief when she saw me safe and sound. We sat on the bed and carefully selected a few types of medicine after comparing them one by one. After watching Tessa swallow the capsules, I described the situation downstairs to her. The zombies were not as agile as before, which might be our chance to seek help. Rather than relying on medicines whose effectiveness was uncertain, it seemed wiser to actively look for medical assistance. After pondering for a while, Tessa looked at me and said, "I'll follow your lead." We put on raincoats, grabbed 2 buckets of water, some medicine, and a backpack full of compressed biscuits, and went downstairs. We found a bicycle downstairs, placed the water on the back seat, and slowly pushed it outside. Tessa, having taken the medicine, felt a bit more energetic. We didn't know which medicine had worked, but any positive effect was welcome. Our desire to survive made every step we took exceptionally firm. Some zombies heard us and glanced our way, a few even followed us. Tessa and I dared not breathe heavily and moved slowly. Perhaps it was the strong odor from the fermented raincoats, but the zombies dispersed after a few steps. Relieved, Tessa and I quickened our pace. Pushing the bike was not a long-term solution. We considered looking for a drivable car to speed up our journey, hoping to reach the nearest city and try our luck, which seemed better than exhausting ourselves on the road. Fortune favored us. Just outside the neighborhood, we found an SUV with its doors open, parked by the roadside. The car was empty, and the keys were still in the ignition. The owner must have been captured by zombies. I mourned for the owner silently, but was thankful to have found the vehicle. Tessa and I got into the SUV and closed the doors. Honestly, I didn't know how to drive. I was underage when the zombie outbreak happened and never had the chance to learn. All my knowledge about driving came from watching drivers while sitting in cars. That meant if we started the car but couldn't move it, the noise might attract a horde of zombies. Tessa wasn't in a condition to run if things went south. If we failed, we'd be sitting ducks. It was a make or break moment. I turned the key, and the car shuddered but made no sound. What was the problem? I was panicking. Out of my depth. You need to turn the key all the way and press down on the leftmost pedal first. You know how to drive. Why didn't you say so earlier? On the highway, I felt more and more confident. I might just be a natural-born racer, handling the car with ease as the scenery whizzed by. Driving felt wonderful. Can you shift to fourth gear? Tessa asked, glancing at the 40 miles per hour speedometer with resignation. Oh, right. Tessa mentioned she had some recollection of the rescue base's location from her past life, somewhere on the southern outskirts of the city. So this time, we headed to the city's north. After driving for over 4 hours, we finally reached the highway exit we aimed for. Each lane was blocked by barriers, and the ETC system wasn't working due to a power outage. Let's break through. All right. I floored the accelerator, and the barriers snapped as we passed. It felt like breaking through the gates of hell. Stepping onto the ladder of rebirth, I cheered and slapped the steering wheel, and Tessa also showed a long-missed smile. Suddenly, Tessa called out to me. I thought we had found rescue and looked around, but saw nothing. I turned to Tessa, who wore an embarrassed expression. The car starting means it has power, and if it has power, we can charge our phones. We both forgot our phones. Damn. I drove aimlessly through the city, thinking that if no help appeared, I would continue north to the next city. Tessa was fiddling with the electronic screen in the car, turning on the car radio. Channel after channel switched, unexpectedly all broadcasting the lengthy crackle of static. We both felt a bit disheartened. We had hoped to get some useful information through the radio, but it seemed to be a futile effort. In the evening, the fuel gauge warning light came on. After a long search, we found a gas station. After filling up the tank, we also filled 2 metal barrels with fuel and then set off for the next city. 12. Tessa's condition worsened. The medication could no longer control her illness. It had been almost half a month since we left Tessa's house. During this period, we hadn't seen any sign of rescue or even a living soul. Our conversations became less frequent, as if we were both aware of our impending death, just struggling to live one more day. She lay on the seat, her pale cheeks deeply sunken, too weak to even open her eyes. I parked the car in front of a supermarket and went in alone to look for supplies. Like other supermarkets, the shelves had been completely cleared of food. What was the point of living like this? Many times, I thought about just crashing into a wall. A quick end seemed better than watching Tessa suffer to the point where death seemed preferable, but I couldn't give up. Tessa hadn't given up, so I couldn't either. After collecting myself, I returned to the car and continued driving through the city highways. As we drove on, the leaves gradually turned yellow. The scenery along the road was beautiful, tragically beautiful. Tessa, look. Not long after driving, I noticed something odd in the woods to the left. I stopped the car and excitedly called out to Tessa, wanting her to see what I had spotted. Hidden among the roadside trees was a tall wall with a lighthouse above it, and it seemed like there were people there. Tessa, wake up! We're saved, even if these people were terrorists. I had to take the chance. If there really was danger, I would take Tessa and end it all. Tessa didn't respond. I panicked a little, shook her, and realized she was barely breathing. I stood there, stunned, my hands suspended in the air, not knowing what to do. I kept reassuring myself that Tessa was just sick. She wouldn't die. She was just sick. Life was at stake. I restarted the car and drove towards that hard-earned beacon of light. The person on the tower noticed our car, waved, and then pointed in a direction I roughly understood. He was probably directing me to the gate, so I followed his instructions and drove to the other side of the wall. I stopped the car, and about 10 armed men came towards me. They gestured for me to get out of the car with my hands on my head. I complied and hurriedly explained there was a sick person in the car. This only made them more cautious. Loudly asking if I had been bitten by zombies, I reassured them repeatedly that it was just an illness, and that we hadn't come into contact with zombies. Only then did they come closer to look inside the car. The leader told me they were a civilian rescue organization responsible for searching and caring for nearby residents. I felt slightly relieved, looked at Tessa, and asked them to help save her. The leader signaled for others to carry Tessa inside the wall. I followed them, calling out Tessa's name over and over. Tessa didn't respond. I anxiously repeated that we were saved, urging her to hang on. Still, there was no response. Once inside the wall, I discovered a different world. People here were not restrained. They talked to each other. He approached me with a smile. I was too distracted to respond. Tessa was the only thing on my mind. We entered a small, makeshift tin hut where a man, presumably the doctor, came out. He lifted Tessa's eyelids, examined her mouth, and then listened to her heartbeat with a stethoscope. With a sigh, he told me she was gone. Tessa was dead. She died right in front of the doctor. It hit me like a ton of bricks, tears as big as beans falling from my eyes. I couldn't believe it. She was so strong, holding on to a script for Rebirth, yet she couldn't escape this disaster. I knelt on the ground, begging the doctor to save her, my cries turning hoarse as I screamed, refusing to get up despite others trying to pull me away. The gods could not hear my calls. All my beliefs had collapsed. 13. There was no funeral here. People die all the time. It's nothing unusual. To them, they buried Tessa hastily, but I insisted on marking her grave with a wooden plaque later. Someone asked me where I was from. I don't remember what I answered. I was in a daze during that time, as if my soul had been stripped away. I kept asking the doctor, with bloodshot eyes, over and over again, about the reason for Tessa's death, about why the medicine didn't cure her illness. The answer I got was ridiculous. Medicine was useless. Oranges were what we needed. It was absurd. I laughed until my eyes were blurred with tears. He said Tessa lacked vitamin C, which led to scurvy. He said I also lacked vitamin C, but my preference for vegetable-based fast food meant I was just slightly healthier than Tessa. I couldn't believe it. How could I believe, what the hell with vitamins, that they could make a healthy living person so fragile? She was only 18, at the age of a blooming flower. She experienced death twice. How could I believe that an orange could cure Tessa? Where could I find an orange? I couldn't find any. 14. I was in a coma for several days, during which people came to question me, but I remained silent, unwilling to answer, until someone asked me what my name was. I opened my eyes. My name is Tessa. I decided to live on as Tessa, to accomplish all the things she wanted to do. She wanted to see the maple forest. I went for her. She wanted to enter politics, learn musical instruments, learn to skateboard, keep pets. I could do all that. The world had no more hope for me to live, but my life was saved by Tessa, and I couldn't take it lightly. I began to try to live again. 2 years later, the zombies were eradicated by local organizations and armed forces everywhere. People began to establish a new order of survival. The cities gradually regained their vitality. People from the base told me that the city base I used to belong to had been dissolved due to infighting among terrorists and combined attacks from other municipal governments. They asked me if I wanted to go back and live there. I thought about it, but decided against it, going back to that place filled with memories of Tessa. I was afraid I couldn't move on. I still remember the last thing Tessa said to me. She said, "Look at those clouds. Some look like mountains, some like fish. They seem so happy. I wonder if she could wake up again from the playground. I hope she can spin off." One headache. After a ringing in my ears, I heard the sound of a breeze blowing through the curtains, blurry. I saw a white figure walking back and forth. Was I saved? She's really amazing. You're awake. Classmate, do you feel uncomfortable anywhere? Why don't you rest for one more class period? The person speaking to me was someone I recognized. The school doctor. Wait, the school doctor. Memories flooded my mind in an instant, intensifying my headache. I didn't respond, just trying to carefully sort out the current situation. After a brief silence, the bell for the end of class rang, confirming my suspicion that I had been reborn again. Teacher, under what circumstances would someone lose their teeth without any external injuries? That's a complex issue. It could be periodontal disease or bacterial infiltration. A lack of sufficient vitamin C could also cause this. You mean scurvy, right? We learned about that in biology class. With the balanced nutrition in today's food, you're generally getting some vitamin C, so it's unusual for that to happen. If your teeth are falling out, you really should get that checked. After speaking, the school doctor placed an ice pack wrapped in a towel on my head. You seem weaker than others. Maybe you should take some time off and get checked at a hospital. Thank you, teacher. Back in the classroom, I looked around. Where was she? When I spotted the girl looking at me with curiosity, my heart settled a bit. If everything could start over, this time I would ensure our safety. I don't know if you were rescued in the last life. With the dwindling food supplies and aimless search for medical help, I delayed you know. Nothing yet. There is still a week left. Wait for me, too. I hurriedly informed the homeroom teacher and took leave, tirelessly preparing the house and supplies just as I had in my previous life. This time, I couldn't put her in danger again. Before the zombie outbreak, I would definitely have her stay at my house. With the experience from my previous life, I was even more prepared this time. The teacher mentioned it might be a bacterial issue or something related to vitamin C, so I stocked up on plenty of antibiotics and vitamins. As for the periodontal disease, with almost a week left, it was time to get it checked. I scheduled a comprehensive medical examination, leaving no stone unturned. Urgent, super urgent. I must get the results within 2 days. If my death is a cycle, then I hope in endless attempts at rescue, I can secure a happy ending for you. The medical report came out, and the doctor handed me the booklet but wouldn't let it go. I looked at him puzzled. His eyes conveyed deep sympathy. I tried to snatch the booklet, only seeing his fingers tightly clenching the corner until they turned white. I think I understood. Doctor, please just tell me straight. Did your family come with you? Just tell me. I don't even know how I left the hospital, but now I might understand what feeling powerless means. The flowers have wilted too quickly in the spring, alas. Helpless against the cold rain in the morning and the winds in the evening. Advanced stage liver cancer, already spreading throughout my body. The doctor said with aggressive treatment, I could still live for a long time if I gave up on treatment, at most a year and a half, with many more complications to come. What's the point? What's the point of it all? Infinite rebirths only to face inevitable death. If only it were scurvy, if only it were periodontal disease. So this is my cause of death, all attempts futile. Sitting on a bench by the roadside, I kept thinking if I could make all the preparations flawless, could it be feasible to leave her alone at home? The root of everything lies in me. 3. On the last day, I invited her to my house. I explained everything in detail, including that the rescue is a hoax, to stay indoors, stock up on water, take nutritional supplements regularly, and that the zombies would begin to slow down in about a year. I can't guarantee what might happen next, but these supplies should be enough to last her a few years. After saying all this, I was ready to leave this home. She asked where I was going, and I told her I had my own safe house and that she shouldn't worry. Taking one last look at her, I reminisced about the place filled with the essence of our life together. As dawn broke, I knocked on the door of apartment 1401 below her place. A man answered the door. He gave me a sleazy once-over with a lecherous grin, fixated on my chest for a couple of seconds, twisted his mouth into an even wider smile, and with his beard bristling like a sausage's ends, he smacked his lips and said, "Little sister, what brings you here? Are your parents not home? Why don't you come in and stay for a while?" His voice was sharp and hoarse. I remembered she had once sought my help, telling me about some neighbors who were stealing supplies and had tried to break into her apartment. According to her, the victims of the theft in her building lived in apartment 1402, and those who had stolen from them were from 1401. I wasn't sure if the same people from 1401 were the ones who tried to break in later, but any hidden threat needed to be eliminated. I stepped closer to the middle of the doorway, revealing the sharp boning knife hidden behind the door. The dim light failed to reflect the terror in his trembling eyes. The death knell had sounded. Blood splattered on my face, and after wiping it off casually, I checked the time. There were less than 5 minutes left until the first scream from below. I slowly walked downstairs and sat by the fountain in the courtyard, quietly waiting until I saw a bizarre figure approaching me. I smiled bitterly. It turned out to be me. My soul floated in the sky, and this time, there was no rebirth. I finally understood that becoming a zombie meant no more rebirths. It was over. In this game of life, I was ultimately a loser. In the following years, I drifted daily by her bedside, watching her idly pass the days, amusing herself with her still healthy complexion. Several times I wanted to reach out and smooth her furrowed brow, but my transparent arm lifted and then fell back down. Maybe there were regrets. As long as you are well, that is enough.